Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, we invite you to listen to part 3 of the series. Chapter 28, Chapter 28, Chapter 28, and Departure_L. Chapter 28, Chapter 28, and Departure_L. Jiang Erlang managed to gather himself. Seeing his elderly mother's tear-streaked face and trembling lips, he apologized. "Mother, I've caused you worry." Jiang Lu was crying so hard she was choking. Clutching her son tightly, she kept stroking his chest. "I don't mind the worry, as long as you're okay, my son. You must try to come to terms with this." Sob, sob, sob. Jiang Erlang closed his eyes. It took a while before he said, "Mother, since the Ling family wants the divorce, let it be. But it's impossible for me to give them 30 taels of silver." He paused for a moment and said, "The Lings are well aware of our situation. Our brothers have already divided up the family property. There's no reason for me to ask my parents and brothers to pay for my divorce." The way his wife acted during his illness had thoroughly chilled Jiang Erlang's heart. He had put up with her tantrums, but she took advantage of his illness to take all the money from the house and ran to her mother's home. This morning he was thinking, once he got better, he would go to the Yu family to bring his wife back. After all, they had been married for over a decade. Couples argue and bicker. He thought, as long as he apologized and did some coaxing, considering their child, their home, and the bond of so many years of marriage, she would come back to him, and they could live a good life. But what he would never have expected was today her mother, brother, and sister-in-law came knocking at the door to demand a divorce. No matter how his parents explained or how others counseled, the Lings insisted on the divorce. They even claimed that Leng had been suffering in misery in the Jiang family and couldn't bear to live there any longer. Not only did they want a divorce, they also asked for 30 taels of silver as compensation. Jiang Erlang didn't believe that this idea of a divorce came from Leng. Although his health had been weak, he did all the heavy work at home, and Leng never had to do the hard work in the fields if she didn't want to. He tried his best to make her happy. Therefore, before they divorced, he had to ask her personally whether she really couldn't continue to live with him. If she really had had enough, he wouldn't find it hard to let go. After all, he already had a son and a daughter from his second wife. Even if he ended up without a wife for the rest of his life, it wouldn't be a big deal. When Jiang Lu heard her son agreeing to the divorce, she hurriedly advised, "Son, a divorce is no small matter. You must think it over clearly." Leng, perhaps she only said it out of anger. "As long as we show courtesy and apologize to them." "No," cough, cough, cough. Jiang Erlang was so agitated that he started coughing, and he felt pain in his chest again. After catching his breath, he said, "Mother, we did nothing wrong. Before we got married, I was perfectly healthy and had never suffered any serious illness. The disease he had now was caused by catching a cold when he was doing hard labor duties 2 years after they got married. Back then, they hadn't yet divided the family property, and his parents and brothers felt very guilty, using all the family's money to treat his illness. He guessed that Leng had been planning for divorce since that time, secretly stashing away ginseng slices from the medicine bag, and bundling all the valuables and money in the house into a package and hiding it under the bed. If his mother hadn't accidentally discovered the package and opened it to check, noticing something wrong and questioning her, Leng might have abandoned the child in her womb and absconded with the package, never to return. Today, the Yu family suddenly demanded a divorce for their daughter who had been married out for over a decade. Presumably, they had already planned their next move. Their goal was nothing more than to get a second betrothal gift for their daughter. But his wife had always seemed bewitched, unable to see her parents' and brothers' greed, unwilling to heed his advice, and bent on helping her own family. Over these years, it seemed he hadn't wronged his wife or the Yu family in any way. He had sent all the customary gifts without fail and spent all the necessary money. 2 years ago, when her younger brother got married, at his wife's request, he went hunting in the mountains with his 2 brothers to provide a generous gift. They endured bitter cold and didn't return home for several days. Back then he had just recovered from an illness less than a year ago and had managed not to collapse despite his condition. When he got home, Leng hadn't asked after him once, but had kept urging him to bring back all the game. In the end, neither of his brothers took any of the game they had caught. They gave it all to him. Even so, Leng wasn't satisfied. She had insisted that he borrow a coin from his parents and take it back to her family. He still hadn't repaid that coin to his parents till this day. Of course, his parents had never asked for it back. So, if Leng were really insistent on a divorce, let her have it. He didn't owe her or the Leng family anything. The next day, Jiang Erlang confronted the Lengs himself, agreeing to the divorce on the condition that Leng return with their son Huzi so they could discuss the divorce face to face. And so, Leng came back home that afternoon with Huzi in tow. The couple sat across from each other at the table. "Are you sure you want a divorce?" Jiang Erlang asked quietly, stifling his sadness. Leng, her face veiled, nodded her head. Jiang Erlang closed his eyes and asked, "Why?" Madame Leng remained silent. "Is it because of my illness?" "But I'm now fully recovered," Dr. Li said. So, Jiang Erlang restrained his heartache, trying to salvage the situation. Leng still kept her head down, without speaking a word. Jiang Erlang couldn't help but weep, quickly turning his head and wiping away the tears with his sleeve. After a long silence, Jiang Erlang asked again, "Is there something troubling you? Let's discuss it together." Leng finally raised her head and said calmly, "Erlang, my trouble is that I married you. I've had enough of poverty over the years." She paused, then continued, "Let me go, let's get a divorce." Upon hearing this, Jiang Erlang felt completely disheartened. Standing up, he said, "All right, since you've made up your mind, I will let you go. I hope you have a peaceful life in the future." As he left the room, Jiang Erlang personally went to ask the village head for advice and then sent his eldest nephew to West Village to fetch the matchmaker who arranged their wedding years ago. Since they were parting, they had to part completely. So, Chen Sanyo, the village head, and the matchmaker both witnessed the divorce between Jiang Erlang and Madame Leng. The Leng family also invited several elders of the Leng family to show their support. After long negotiations, both families agreed that the children, Ernie and Huzi, would be cared for by Jiang Erlang, and the Jiang family would pay Madame Leng 15 taels of silver as a settlement fee and they would have no future dealings. Chen Xuanjing, the village head, made 2 copies of the divorce paper. Both families signed and confirmed the divorce, and the elders guaranteed it. The same day matchmaker also provided a fingerprint as evidence. From then on, Jiang Erlang and the Madame Leng were formally divorced. Ing Bao didn't know the 500 or 600 coins she had received had caused such a rift in her second uncle's family. But even if she did know, she would not feel guilty. Because Madame Leng was never a suitable match for her second uncle, her 600 coins were just the fuse. It was just too bad for Ernie and Huzi, they were so young but had already lost their mother. In her previous life, Madame Leng abandoned her young children early to live her own life after her second uncle's death. In this life, Ernie and Huzi at least had their biological father to take care of them. Ing Bao, hurry up, Daddy is leaving. Jiang Sanlang pretended not to wait for his little girl anymore and started to step out. Ing Bao became anxious, put on her tiger hat and ran after him, blocking her father's way and reaching out to be hugged. Jiang Sanlang hoisted his little girl onto the back carrier and went to the front yard to call out his elder and second nephew to go to town together. Today was the last big market before the new year. The street was busy with people buying provisions for the new year. Ing Bao stood in the back carrier, watching the hawkers on both sides of the road from a higher perspective. There were sellers of chickens, ducks, old geese, eggs, vegetables, wild game, and children's toys. There were also vendors selling silk and floral headpieces. Most of all, there were New Year pictures of door gods and lucky lanterns, hanging on the wooden racks in bright red, bringing a touch of warmth to the dreary winter. Ing Bao watched with great interest, frequently asking her father to get closer and ask the vendors about their wares. One hawker displayed children's clay toys on the ground, small clay pigs, bulls, chickens, ducks, dolls, as well as clay tigers and clay whistles. They all had appropriate colors painted on them, making them look particularly attractive. "Which one do you want?" Jiang Sanlang asked. Ing Bao shook her head, "I don't want any." She had lost interest in these a long time ago and was just curious to take a look. The 4 of them squeezed among the crowd, each going their own way to look for interesting things. Jiang Cheng and Jiang Quan quickly disappeared from sight, which made Jiang Sanlang shout out, "You two, don't go too far. I'll wait outside for you both to go home together." "All right, Uncle San." Jiang Cheng replied from within the crowd. Ingbao, who was standing high, could see her two elder cousins still hanging around the juggling stall. "Daddy, let's go over there to look at the floral headpieces." Ingbao pointed to the roadside. "All right." So, father and daughter began strolling around the roadside stalls. Chapter 29, Chapter 29, Chapter 29, Buying Firewood _L. Chapter 29, Chapter 29, Buying Firewood _L. In the end, Ingbao paid to buy 2 pairs of colorful silk flower hairpins and 3 pairs of exquisitely carved wooden combs, which could be used as hair decorations. They were currently quite popular. She also bought a dried tobacco pipe and a bunch of toys made out of wood. Items like a colorful pigeon cart, a tangram puzzle, a Kongming lock puzzle, and 2 small horse heads made out of colored paper. Altogether, they cost her 180 coins. Jiang Sanlang marveled at his little daughter's ability to pick out items and spend money wisely. Although the little items she bought did not seem significant, they were all exquisite, beautiful, and practical. He tried to dissuade her a couple of times, but when he saw she wouldn't listen, he just went along with it. After all, the money was hers. As long as his little daughter was pleased, she could even buy a person to go back home. The father and daughter continued their shopping spree while sauntering around. As Jiang Sanlang bought New Year decorations, Ingbao bought candied hawthorns. As Jiang Sanlang selected bowls, basins, and chopsticks, Ingbao bought sugar figurines. In the end, the large basket was filled to the brim, and both hands were also full. Jiang Sanlang could only carry his daughter on his back and head home. Suddenly, from her high vantage point, Ingbao saw a ragged young boy with a load of firewood in front of him. On the dark firewood, there seemed to be a few dried golden yellow mushrooms that were particularly eye-catching. "Dad. Dad. Quickly go over there." Ingbao, patting her dad's shoulder, pointed to the side of the road and said, "Go over there." Jiang Sanlang assumed his daughter had spotted some tasty food, so he reminded her, "Bao Bao, we've bought too many snacks, it's hard to carry all of them." "I don't want snacks. Dad, put me down. I want to look at that." She pointed her little finger to the roadside. Jiang Sanlang turned his head to look and was momentarily taken aback. In that direction, there were no food stalls, no toy stands, nothing but a 13 or 14-year-old ragged boy and a pile of firewood in front of him. Could it be, was his daughter really going to buy a person? Shoo! What was he thinking? How could his daughter want to buy a dirty little boy? But since his daughter struggled to get down, out of the basket, Jiang Sanlang had no other choice but to set the basket beside the road, sit on a stone and rest his feet while waiting for his 2 nephews. Luckily this place was on the outskirts of the market, there were few people setting up stalls, and the flow of people was scarce, so he didn't have to worry about his little daughter getting stepped on. Ingbao was lifted out of the basket by her father and in a flash spot ran over to the load of firewood. She looked up at the ragged young boy and asked, "Are you selling firewood?" The boy, seeing a small bobble-hatted child asking a question, assumed she was curious and nodded. "How much does it cost?" Ingbao asked. The boy, 3 coins. Beaming, Ingbao asked again, "If you deliver it home for me, how much would that cost?" The boy frowned and asked, "Where's your home?" "Dongchen Village," Ingbao replied. "Dongchen Village," the boy thought about it and said, "To deliver to Dongchen Village, 5 coins. "All right then, you will come with me later." Ingbao put 5 coins into the boy's hand. "This is the money for the firewood. I'll give it to you first." The boy nodded, clenched the copper coin in his hand, pursed his lips, and a dimple appeared on one cheek. He was obviously very happy. Seeing the brief appearance of a dimple on the boy's cheek, Ingbao was stunned. She took a closer look at him. He had delicate features, a thin face, and a cold expression. His only flaw was that he was a little dark, probably because he labored in the fields all year round. After looking at him for a while, whatever familiar feeling she had vanished. Ingbao turned around and went to check the firewood. Jiang Sanlang was dumbfounded by his daughter's actions. Why on earth did his little girl want to buy a load of firewood? They didn't need to buy firewood at home, there was plenty on the back hill. They just had to go there and they could carry back a load themselves. But since his daughter had already bought it, what could he do? He might as well let her do as she pleased. Jiang Sanlang didn't know that what his daughter had bought was not firewood, but the golden ear fungus grown on dry twigs. Ingbao squatted in front of the pile of wood, her little hands already holding 2 golden ear fungus, each the size of a finger. She sniffed them and pretended to put them in her pocket, but actually secretly stored them in her cave. Hee, instead of schwer, she unexpectedly found something even more valuable, golden ear fungus. She planned to put the fungus-sourced firewood into her cave, give it a splash of water, and see whether more fungi could grow. Ingbao focused her gaze on the bundle of wood, prying it open with her hands, eager to see if there were any more golden ear fungi, but remembered her father's calling. Bao Bao, come quickly, your cousin is here, we're going home. Jiang Sanlang finally spotted his 2 nephews, so he immediately called his daughter to get in the back basket. Okay, Ingbao responded, not forgetting the firewood she bought and gesturing to the raggedly dressed teenager, we're going home now, hurry up. The boy said without a word. He bent down and picked up the firewood. The journey from Chuanha town to Dongchen village was almost 5 or 6 miles, which was not easy with a load of firewood. By the time they finally arrived, the boy's face was glowing red from exhaustion, and his whole body was covered in sweat. While he was untangling the cord to unload the firewood, Ingbao asked, "Where did you cut this firewood from?" The boy shot a wary glance her way, saw the child's innocent curiosity, paused, and replied, "From Stone Tower Mountain." "Where is Stone Tower Mountain?" Ingbao continued to ask. The boy was silent for a moment. "It's to the west of North Mountain." "Oh." Ingbao licked the candy in her hand, gave it some thought, and then pulled out 2 water chestnuts from her pocket and stuffed them into his hand. "Here, eat this." She noticed this boy wearing crude straw sandals with bare feet, his trousers in tatters, and too short, revealing a purple, frostbitten ankle. It reminded her of a man she met in her previous life, but that man had never been so downcast. She didn't know why she suddenly thought of him. She recalled that his name was Chuyan, an officer in the governor's mansion. Every time she encountered him, he was dressed in fine brocade, with an embroidered spring knife hanging at his waist. His eyes were as cold as unsheathed swords, complete devoid of any emotion. Ingbao had seen Chuyan draw out his embroidered spring knife, and with one stroke cut off a person's arm. His facial expression didn't change in the slightest, like he was simply chopping vegetables. And yet, such a ruthless man was willing to be used by her, and took great risks to help her escape the governor's mansion. There was something about the eyes and cheek dimple of the boy in front of her today that reminded her of him, especially that cautious glance from just now. The boy hesitated for a moment, took the water chestnuts, and murmured, "Thank you." Ingbao watched as the boy carried away his burden and disappeared into the distance, licking her candy repeatedly, her face expressionless. "Ingbao, what are you standing there for?" Jiang Sanlang emerged from the kitchen and asked in curiosity upon seeing his daughter standing at the entrance of the yard. Ingbao snapped back to reality, smiling and said, "I'm looking for a place to stack firewood." The boy had brought the firewood into the yard and placed it next to the deer shed. Ingbao planned to spread it out and check each piece for any golden ear fungus on the dry twigs. Jiang Sanlang shook his head and decided not to bother about his daughter. He went back inside to sort out the items they'd brought back. Most of the items in the back basket were little knickknacks bought by Ingbao, and his own New Year purchases were quite pitiful. A strip of pork, a few bowls, a pair of chopsticks, a bag of coarse salt, 2 blocks of tofu, several talisman for the doors, and that was about it. Jiang Sanlang sighed, organized the things, then scooped out a tub of wheat, prepared to go to his eldest brother's place to grind it into flour. They'll make dumplings on New Year's Eve the next day. After grinding the flour, he also needs to pound some rice to eat during the holiday. Meanwhile, Ingbao squatted beside the stack of firewood, inspecting it piece by piece, and found 4 branches with golden ear fungus on them. She was thrilled, took the wood, and ran to ask her father, "Dad. Dad. Do you know what tree this is?" Only golden ear fungus growing on non-toxic trees could be eaten, and she needed to know what species of tree this wood was. Jiang Sanlang took it from her and looked at it carefully, then truthfully said, "It's a mulberry tree." He, I see. Ingbao grabbed the branches back and ran off again. Jiang Sanlang shook his head, speechless. He then took a basin full of wheat and walked out the door. Chapter 30, Chapter 30, Chapter 30, Planting the Golden Ear _L. Chapter 30, Chapter 30, Planting the Golden Ear _L. Ing Bao carried several mulberry sticks back to her room. Disregarding her little brother, she immediately retreated to her cave abode. All the crops inside the cave were harvested completely. Piled up in the corner, there were 3 huge mounds that still needed to be threshed. Whenever she had spare time, Ing Bao would go into the cave to thresh, yet she didn't know when she could finish. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have planted so many crops. Now she had work to do, turning over the soil, threshing crops. Despite all her efforts, she was just one little girl, too busy to handle everything. She soaked the mulberry sticks in the pond for a while, then took them out and inserted them into the soil. She looked them over and smiled more and more. Gold grains. In her past life, she had only seen them once in the prefecture, contained in a gift box before a servant accidentally knocked them over. They scattered across the floor in a golden shimmer. She remembered the stern rebuke from the steward, "Fool. Your life wouldn't even begin to cover the cost. The prefecture does not need useless beings like you. Drag him away and beat him. If he dies, feed him to the dogs." Afterward, the servant was dragged away, and several young girls squatted to pick up the gold grains from the floor. Back then, Ing Bao was naive and fearless. Out of curiosity, she secretly took 2 grains she found in the grass. She thought to herself, "These are the gold grains that Sister Wen mentioned. They're pretty, golden just like gold." Sister Wen was an older girl she met when she was around 10 at Wuchuan Yard, who also taught her how to read. She heard that Wen's family was initially a medicine shop. However, after a nobleman was poisoned to death by their drugs, her family was ransacked. All the adult men in her family were sentenced to exile, while the children and women were sold as slaves. Sister Wen said that she was only 10 when she was sold off to Wuchuan Yard and never saw her family again. When Ing Bao first arrived at Wuchuan Yard, she was incredibly stubborn but eventually suffered a lot. One, who was 16, often came to take care of her, brought her tasty foods and read her stories. Later, Ing Bao learned that Wen was the best dancer in Wuchuan Yard. She danced exceptionally well and was often invited to perform at various mansions to liven up the banquets of the wealthy families. Thus, she was able to bring back all kinds of refined pastries and delicious foods. Now, where was Sister Wen? Where was her family's medicine shop? She sighed, knowing that she should have asked more at that time. Based on her calculations, Sister Wen should be 8 years old now, and it would be another 2 years until her family's medicine shop falls into disaster. She wondered if she would meet Sister Wen in this life. If possible, she would try to remind her. Leaving the cave, Ing Bao began to organize the gifts she bought. The 7 clever boards, Kongming lock and small dove car were for her little brother. 2 colorful little horse heads, one for Yuan Bao, and the other one for Huzi. 2 pairs of silk flowers were for her 2 little cousins. The 3 pairs of wooden combs, she planned to give 1 pair to her mom, 1 pair to her aunt, and her grandmother would get a pair as well. As for this copper pipe, naturally, it was for her grandpa. On New Year's Eve. The meal for New Year's Eve was prepared at Uncle Jiang's house. Jiang Erlang, bringing his son and daughter, Jiang Sanlang carrying his twin sons, Spring Maiden holding Ing Bao's hand while carrying a basket of gifts, all arrived together for the New Year's Eve dinner. Ing Bao handed out the gifts one by one, mumbling, "Uncles and my dad, my elder and second elder brothers didn't get any gifts because all of you are already adults, no more toys for you." Everyone laughed. Her uncles quickly waved their hands, "It's okay, we don't play with toys." Her elder and second elder cousins were dissatisfied and jokingly said, "We are not married yet. How can we be considered adults?" "Ing Bao, you're being biased." Ing Bao, without any embarrassment, said, "Your marriages have already been discussed by Auntie." Everyone burst into laughter. Old Man Jiang and his wife, Jiang Lu, received gifts from their grandchildren for the first time. Their smiles were so large they couldn't close their mouths. The old lady cradled Ing Bao in her arms, repeatedly calling her a good girl and sweet granddaughter. She even took her to a room, secretly gave her a string of coins, whispering, "Good girl, keep this carefully. The New Year money given to you by your grandma is the most, don't let others see it." Ing Bao nodded with a smile, stuffing the money into her pocket. Yuan Bao dashed in, his face watchful as he gazed at his grandmother, thinking she must have secretly given Ing Bao some delicious treats and left him out. Jiang Lu poked his forehead, took out a few copper coins. "Yuan Bao, come, Grandma has New Year's money for you too." Yuan Bao's face immediately lit up with a grin. Taking the money, he knelt down and kowtowed thrice to his grandmother. Seeing this, Ing Bao also hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed to her grandmother, wishing her a happy New Year in advance. Everyone happily feasted on the New Year's Eve dinner, distributed New Year's money to the children, and sent them off to bed. The men stayed up late to welcome the new year. Just before dawn, the three Jiang brothers replaced the old charms with new ones on the main doors of each house. They lit bamboo in the courtyard to bid farewell to the old year and welcome the new one. For a moment, the village was filled with continuous sounds of bamboo explosions. Many houses also set off bamboo crackers. Ing Bao had an uneasy sleep and a dream. In the dream, there was still that sea of fog, and that same book. Ing Bao thought for a moment, then decided to open the book. She skipped the irrelevant parts, directly looking for mentions of Chening or Ing Bao. But there were none. She flipped through dozens of chapters, but her name didn't appear anywhere. The story revolved around Chen Tian and her second sister, Chen Zhao, with a detailed portrayal of their rivalry and scheming. At last, Ing Bao found the chapter where Chen Chongping passed as a scholar. Chen Chongping expresses to his wife, Han family, his fear of not being physically able to make it to the rural examination and his intention of leveraging connections for a government position. He asks her to seek her brother-in-law's help. Han family complies and finds her brother-in-law, Chen Guanglu. Chen Guanglu taps on his chest confidently, saying it's not an issue. He assures that as long as the superiors are properly appeased and their preferences catered to, a position for the brother-in-law at the county government would be no problem. As soon as she reached this point, the pages of the book turned into paper butterflies and dissipated. Ing Bao. All right, she knew this would happen. Actually, it didn't matter if she read the book or not, since she had already experienced the event in her past life. She was given away by her parents in the hope of acquiring a governmental position. After waking up early, Ing Bao's first task was to visit the golden ear in the cave dwelling. The withered golden ear seemed to have freshened up a bit, but she couldn't tell if it was because of soaking in the pond. She will have to wait and revisit this later. For now, she should return to digging the soil and plant some more crops. And about the 3 piles of wheat, rice, and soybeans, they will have to be dealt with later. After eating some 5 ding ganoderma, Ing Bao spent a good while in the cave before going out to wash up. She was to visit her elder uncle's house this morning. And tomorrow morning, she will accompany her mother to visit her maternal grandmother. She was a little bit busy, indeed. After washing up, she heard her mother call, "Bao Bao, come over and put on your new clothes. We're going to your grandfather and grandmother's house to wish them a happy new year." Spring Maiden had made a new cotton suit for her little daughter. The neckline was lined with a round of soft rabbit tail fur, which was warm, and didn't rub against the neck. Ing Bao happily ran over, changed into her new red cotton suit embroidered with bat patterns, a pair of new green cotton trousers, and a pair of colorful tiger-headed cotton shoes. Unfortunately, she didn't have much hair on her head to wear any floral headpieces. She only managed to tie 2 little tufts on top of her head with a red string. Luckily, she had a tiger head hat, so no one would be able to see her sparse braids as long as she was wearing the hat. Chapter 31, Chapter 31, Chapter 31, Valuable 1. Chapter 31, Chapter 31, Valuable 1. Once everything was tidied up, Ing Bao went with her parents and younger brother to wish her grandparents a happy new year. On the way, they saw 2 children hopping along on bamboo poles. The ends of the bamboo poles each had colored paper horse heads attached, which were the 2 horse heads Ing Bao had given Yuan Bao and Huzi. Ha ha! Drive! Drive! Charge! Yuan Bao, leading Huzi, raced away, attracting the attention of the nearby children who all followed. Within the village, a few other children also had similar horse heads, so they all arrogantly lined up and competed to see who could run the fastest. Those children without horse heads could only ride plain poles and followed at the end, looking lonely and rather unimpressive. Seeing this made Ing Bao want to laugh, and a sudden desire to try it came over her. However, this was a boys' game, and girls were not only unused to it, but were also not allowed to play. Upon arriving at her eldest uncle's house, they first bowed and wished their grandparents a happy new year, then bowed to her eldest uncle and his wife. Later, when her second uncle arrived, they bowed to him as well, afterwards they bowed to their parents again. After all this commotion, Ingbao felt quite dizzy from all the bowing. Danny and the second girl didn't get much rest either as they spent their time bowing as well. After the New Year's greetings, the eldest aunt started to prepare dumplings and rice cakes. The dumplings were stuffed with shepherd's purse and pork. They were absolutely delicious. Ingbao, being a small child, could only eat 7 before she felt too full to continue, despite wishing she could eat more. The rice cakes were made from glutinous rice and red beans, with honey added inside. Sweet and sticky, they were delicious. Ingbao took a piece of the red bean rice cake in her hand and went out to play with sister Danny. There were few games that girls could play. Most of the time they stood on the sidelines watching boys zoom back and forth, riding their bamboo poles, dividing into 2 teams, playing war games. Ingbao lost interest after a while and suggested going home to sleep. There was still a lot of work to be done in her cave, and she couldn't settle down. So she bid goodbye to her cousin and went back home, climbing onto the Kong bed and burrowing into the quilt. The first day of the new year was a leisurely and jovial one. Other than eating and drinking, the villagers spend their time visiting each other to exchange New Year's greetings. Only Ingbao had a hard time, as she was busy working in her cave the whole day, rubbing both of her palms raw. Sigh, she decided they must not plant so much grain next time. Relying on just one small person to do the work, and not allowing anyone to help, she was going to work herself to death. The next day, Ingbao went with her parents to her grandmother's house 10 miles away to celebrate the New Year. They had lunch there and had to rush back in the afternoon. In the evening, they met her aunt who had returned from the county town and collected a silk flower. Ingbao's aunt was in her 30s, sallow-faced, and not very well. This time she returned to her mother's home with only her youngest son, who was about the same age as Yuan Bao. Ingbao wasn't familiar with her aunt's family. In her previous life, it seemed she had only met her once, and even after she herself moved to the county town, she never thought of looking for her aunt. Busy as she was, the first lunar month passed by. The spring rain kept drizzling for several days in the second month of the lunar year, known as Dragon's Head Raising Month. Before they knew it, the snow and ice had melted and the weather was starting to warm up. In Ingbao's cave, the 5 mulberry trunks had grown over a dozen adults' palm-sized golden ears. They looked like golden pigs' brains, very beautiful and pleasing. She carefully cut off one, put it in a pottery bowl, and split the root part into several sections to plant on a dozen or so dried mulberry trunks. Before planting, she had drilled holes in the trunks with scissors and filled them with finely chopped wheat stalks and rice husks. Afterwards, she watered them once a day, waiting patiently for them to sprout and grow again. One day, Ingbao took Yu, Danny, and the second girl to pick wild veggies in a deserted field. They went into a small woods. While her 2 cousins weren't paying attention, she took 2 golden ears from her cave and put them in her basket. Let's go back. Danny stood up straight, holding the basket. I've already picked half a basket. Ingbao immediately nodded. Let's go home. The second girl also agreed. The 3 little sisters each carried their baskets and walked back. When they passed a small ditch, Danny dipped the baskets into the water to rinse the veggies. After washing, the veggies were tender and lush, and when cooked back home with soybean dregs, they were delicious and filling. This is the life-saving meal for poor families during food shortages in the transition from winter to spring. Villagers usually pick the veggies after the first spring rain, wash them clean and then dry them. They collect them in baskets, hanging them from the rafters as emergency food storage. Occasionally, they would grab a handful, soak it in water and cook it with wild vegetables, which was enough for a meal or 2. Danny took Ingbao's basket intending to help wash the veggies, but was surprised to find 2 strange mushrooms. Curiously, she asked, Ingbao, what are these? Golden ear. Ingbao answered truthfully. Danny was curious, what is this golden ear? Where did you find it? Is it poisonous? Ingbao shook her head. I found it in the forest. It's not poisonous. Yu loves to eat it, we can eat it too. Yu turned her head and blinked innocently. Danny picked up the golden ear and sniffed it. It's kind of fragrant. The golden ear had a faint medicinal scent, similar to osmanthus flowers. Danny also took it and sniffed, but she wrinkled her nose and put it back. It doesn't smell good. She didn't like the fragrance. Ingbao held the 2 golden ears in her dress, and wagged her head. This is a medicinal herb, it's worth a lot of money. The 2 young girls neither agreed nor disagreed, washed the vegetables, and returned home with their younger cousin. Once home, Ingbao handed the 2 golden ears to their mother. "Mom, can we cook this?" Their mother looked at it and frowned. "What is this?" "Who told you it was edible?" "Bao Bao, if you eat something you don't recognize, you might get poisoned. We mustn't eat recklessly." Ingbao paused and made up a story. "This is golden ear. An old woman in West Village said it's very valuable. It can sell for dozens of taels of silver per box in the city." "What?" Upon hearing the word valuable, their mother's eyes widened. "Which old woman in West Village?" Ingbao scratched her head. "I don't know her name." Their mother automatically assumed it was the old woman whose son worked as a medicine clerk in the county, the grandmother of the midwife Aunt Wu from West Village. If it was true what Wu's grandmother had said, then it's highly plausible. After all, her deceased husband had worked as a clerk in a medicine shop in town, and they had initially become wealthy by collecting and selling medicinal herbs. And her son even had some understanding of traditional medicine techniques, and her daughter-in-law was a well-known midwife in the village. Their mother looked at the golden ears again, and wondered to herself, could it really be worth that much? They were in need of money at home. The last time when Jiang Erlang divorced, the 15 taels of silver were borrowed from Jiang Da and Sanlang, with some help from their parents. They even had to sell 2 of their sheep for it. Only 2 months had passed. Jiang Erlang had stopped taking medicine, but he was nowhere near able to repay the debts. Moreover, Sanlang had said that there was no rush, they could repay the money whenever they were able to. So, their mother was poor, so poor that she couldn't even come up with 30 coins. But she couldn't tell her daughter about their difficulties. "Mom, why don't we let Dad take it to the medicine shop in town to see if it's worth anything?" Ingbao suggested. Their mother was considering the idea. Indeed, she should have her husband take it to the medicine shop for appraisal. What if it was really valuable? But, there are only 2, their mother was hesitant. Ingbao knew what her mother was worried about, and whispered, "I can find a lot more." She gestured with her tiny hands. "This much?" "Really?" Their mother's eyes sparkled. "Well then, let me go with you to have a look." Ingbao shook her head. "No need, I will go get them now." With that, she ran out of the courtyard, dashed into the small forest by the entrance, and returned a moment later with 2 branches covered in golden ears. She handed them to her mother. Their mother was astounded. The 2 dark branches were covered with more than a dozen brilliant yellow golden ears, each larger than a fist, and incredibly beautiful. Their mother carefully held the branches, cautious not to damage any of the golden ears. "When your dad gets back, let him take these to Granny Wu in West Village to see if they truly are as valuable as we think." Ingbao. Has one ever heard of the saying, shooting oneself in the foot? No. Let's go to town instead. Dr. Li certainly knows more than old lady. We. Their mother thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Chapter 32, Chapter 32, Chapter 32, Guiding Out of Misery. Chapter 32, Chapter 32, Guiding Out of Misery. Chun Yang then chopped a golden ear fungus into pieces and stewed it. After it had been stewed, she first fed some to a chicken to observe for half a day. Seeing that the chicken showed no abnormalities, she decided to taste some herself. Ingbao actually didn't want her mother to taste it. After all, her mother was still breastfeeding, and it would be disastrous if her milk supply were affected in any way. But Chun Yang insisted on tasting it herself. She drank a small half bowl and, after waiting for a while and feeling no discomfort, she finally allowed her daughter to eat. Ingbao took a sip. The golden ear soup was soft, glutinous, and slightly viscous. It carried the scent of osmanthus, and it would have been even better with a touch of honey. It's delicious. Ingbao devoured half a bowl in one breath, then licked her lips and said, "Let's have Dad take it into town to the pharmacy tomorrow. If that doesn't work, we'll take it into the county." She was certain that this was the golden ear. The texture and appearance were all as Wen Jiajia had described, and the taste was similar as well. A member of Wen Jiajia's family used to work at the Imperial Medical Bureau, reputedly serving the royal family and nobility. Later, as he grew older, he returned home to retire. Thus, the men in the Wen family tended to study medicine and operate pharmacies, holding renowned reputations in various places. Under the influence from a young age, Wen Jiajia not only understands medicine but also knows how to differentiate herbs. She would often share her knowledge with Ingbao, who loved to hear these stories. Chunyang replied with a smile, let's wait for your dad to come home, then I'll talk to him. In the evening, Jiang Sanlang came home barefoot from the fields, rinsed his feet after dropping his plowing tool, put on the cloth shoes his daughter brought him, and then sat down to have dinner. Seeing a bowl of golden slop on the table, he curiously asked, what kind of porridge is this? Chunyang grinned and replied, it's the golden ear that Bao Bao picked. Try some to see if it's good. Jiang Sanlang lifted the bowl and had a large gulp, smacking his lips and commenting, the taste is pretty good. It's smooth and warm inside. Chunyang grinned again and remarked, this stuff is worth a lot of money. Granny from West Village said that the pharmacies in the county are selling it for dozens of coins a box. Huh. Jiang Sanlang's eyes widened, for real? Which granny from West Village said that? Ingbao, who was listening to the side. So as the saying goes, one lie requires countless others to support it. The next day, Jiang Sanlang took a mulberry stick laden with golden ear fungus to the town and showed it to Dr. Li. Dr. Li sniffed it and appeared surprised, this indeed looks like golden ear, a top-quality nourishing delicacy. He lifted his aged eyes and asked, did your Erlang ever eat this? He had been wondering how Jiang Erlang's lung disease was cured. Jiang Sanlang was taken aback and hastily shook his head, no, this is something I recently found. I cooked a bit of it last night to taste and thought it tasted good, and heard this could be sold for money. So, I brought it here for you to check if it's true. Dr. Li stroked his beard and nodded, indeed, it's golden ear. However, this is the first time that I've seen it fresh. I never knew that such a precious herb could be found in a small place like ours. However, if you're planning to sell it, you must dry it first. Upon hearing this, Jiang Sanlang was somewhat disappointed. As he was about to take the mulberry stick back, he heard Dr. Li say, if the fresh golden ear is still attached to the tree stick, it might not spoil within a day or two. You might as well take it to the county town to have a look. Chuanha town was too small and its purchasing power was limited. Even though the golden ear was a rare herb, it couldn't be sold. If it were dried, however, he might consider buying some. Jiang Sanlang, deliberating for a moment, quickly thanked him, thank you, doctor, for showing the way. He cut 2 large golden ear fungi from the stick with a small knife and gave them to Dr. Li. Dr. Li chuckled, this thing is precious and I can't take it just like that. Let me share a quick method of drying herbs with you. You can try it at home and see if it works with the golden ear. Jiang Sanlang was delighted, that would be great. He deeply thanked Dr. Li, thank you for your instruction. Dr. Li smiled and did not withhold any information. He told Jiang Sanlang how to dry the golden ears. When I was young, my master once taught me how to dry shuar. I suppose the method should be similar to drying golden ears. First, clean the shuar and dry them on a bamboo tray. Don't let them bunch up. Sun-dry them for 3 to 4 days until they are completely dried. Dr. Li took out a whole shuar to show to Jiang Erlang, it should be dried like this. He pointed to the root of the shuar, you must remove all the stems from the back, otherwise they won't dry properly, and will easily turn black and moldy. Jiang Erlang nodded continuously. There's also another method, which is to build a kiln in the yard, with compartments. Dr. Li picked up a pen and roughly sketched it on a paper. Like this, put the shuar into the kiln's compartment, gently heat it overnight and you can quickly dry it. But the temperature shouldn't go too high or too low, it should be about double the temperature during the hottest days of summer. Jiang Erlang listened carefully to Dr. Li's explanation and even took the sketch for further study. After coming out of the pharmacy, he went straight home and told Chunyang everything Dr. Li had said. Dr. Li also said that if we can find more shuar, and if the appearance is decent after drying, he will buy it for 10 coins per jean. Oh my, really? Chunyang was ecstatic. She immediately turned to her daughter and asked, Bao Bao, where did you find it? Tomorrow, your mother will come with you to find more. Ingbao, in the forest, but there probably isn't any left there. Chunyang was slightly disappointed. She then heard her daughter continue. But we can cultivate it. Ingbao pointed at the shuar on the mulberry trees and said, we can propagate from these, we just need to get some dry mulberry sticks, make a few holes in them and plant the shuar roots in. Ah. We can do that. Not just Chunyang, even Jiang Erlang was astonished by his daughter's suggestion. They haven't ever grown mushrooms, let alone shuer. Is this really doable? Chunyang asked. Without waiting for his daughter's response, Jiang Erlang said decisively, it should be. Let's follow our daughter's advice and give it a go. In fact, whether it was feasible or not, Jiang Erlang wanted to give it a try. Dried shuer sells for 10 coins per gene. This was a great opportunity. How could they just let it slip through their fingers? Jiang Erlang immediately went up the mountain, collected some dried mulberry woods and brought them back. Following his daughter's instructions, he got some rice husks and wood chips, put them into a stone mortar, and ground them into fine bits. He then hollowed out the mulberry woods and filled them with these bits, before pouring water over it. They then divided the shuer roots into multiple parts and planted them into these holes filled with bits. After planting the shuer, they watered the woods and placed them in a newly built bamboo shelter to wait for the fungi to emerge. Of course, Ingbao would sprinkle the woods daily with pond water from their residence to keep it moist. After about 10 days, tiny shuer sprouted from the mulberry wood, showing promising growth. In the meantime, Jiang Erlang had also built a drying kiln in the yard, the kind with compartments. After a few tries, he finally got the temperature right and successfully dried 17 shuer. Though not perfect, their first batch of dried shuer was good enough, and the color was also acceptable. Jiang Erlang was overjoyed and immediately showed them to Dr. Li. Dr. Li was quite surprised that Jiang Erlang had successfully dried shuer in just over 10 days. He weighed the dozen or so dried shuer. They came to 4 taels and 8 qian. According to the initial quote of 10 coins per gene, 4 taels and 8 qian is 4 coins and 800 coin pieces. Dr. Li handed the money to Jiang Erlang and chucklingly said, Jiang Erlang, if you have more, you can sell them together to this old man. Chapter 33, Chapter 33, Chapter 33, Shuer 1. Chapter 33, Shuer 1. Jiang Sanlang quickly agreed. He happily carried the copper coins back home. He gave 500 coins to his little daughter, took 1,500 for himself, and gave the rest to his wife. He took the copper coins to his eldest brother's house, called over his 2 nephews, and gave each of them 100 coins. He gave 500 coins each to his eldest and second brothers. Because when he was building the bamboo sheds and drying kilns, they had all come to help. He also generously gave 300 coins to his parents, then merrily said, Ingbao found some golden ear mushrooms in the forest. I sold them today and got more than 4 coins. More than 4 coins. Jiang Dalong was surprised. Are these golden ears made of gold? How come they are so valuable? Jiang Sanlang laughed, they are even more valuable than gold. He then said to his 2 older brothers, I have grown another batch that is just starting to sprout. Once they mature, I will share some golden ear seeds with you guys. You can also try growing them. Jiang Dalong and Erlang Jiang readily agreed. Jiang Erlang felt awkward accepting money from his younger brother and tried to refuse it. I still owe you 3 coins, it's not right for me to take these 500. Jiang Sanlang laughed, you take it first, Erlang. Repay me when you make some money later. All right then. Jiang Erlang took the money with a sigh. After his wife divorced him, he and his 2 kids have been having a tough time. Even so, he doesn't regret it. He determines to make a lot of money in the future so that his children and himself can live a good life, without making a joke of himself in front of others. But making money is certainly not easy. He was busy with farm work recently, didn't even have time to look for jobs outside, and didn't even have 10 coins on hand. If it weren't for his eldest brother and sister-in-law, who invited his family in to eat every day, he probably wouldn't have had enough to make 2 meals a day. Ah, if only the golden ears could keep selling at a high price, he would then be able to see a future for himself. If he followed his younger brother and planted a few, wouldn't he have an easier time making money? Thinking of it, he asked to see how his younger brother cultivated golden ears. Jiang Sanlang was happy to, taking his elder brothers and their father to his yard. Jiang Sanlang's yard is now unusually cramped, having not just chicken and deer sheds, but also a bamboo shed and a clay kiln that's 2 people high. In the bamboo shed, there's a wooden rack with 2 layers, and each layer has 10 dried mulberry trunks. The upturned mulberry trunks each had about 10 holes in them, filled with rice husks and wood chips, then the golden ear seeds were sown. The golden ears had already sprouted, specks of golden yellow, which was very lovely. If all of these grow, how much could we sell them for? Jiang Dalong marveled. He counted and found 20 dried mulberry trunks. If each mulberry trunk produced 10 golden ears, that would be 200 golden ears. 200 golden ears, how much could they sell for after drying? Dalong Jiang's heart was fluttering. He had come by when his little brother was drying the golden ears, but he didn't take it seriously back then. After all, no one had ever seen this before, and nobody knew if they were really worth anything. But now that his little brother had sold them at a high price, and made more than 4 coins at once, how could he not envy him until he was breathless? Just tens of dried golden ears sold for so much, how much would these more than 200 golden ears sell for? He didn't dare to even think about it. Jiang Dalong turned his head and asked his little brother, Sandan, where did you find the golden ear seeds? Why don't we go look for some too and try growing them with you? He couldn't wait any longer, he needed to go into the mountains to find golden ears now. Jiang Sanlang scratched his head, this is what Ing Bao found, let me go ask her. As a result, Ing Bao, who just returned from herding the deer, was warmly surrounded by her 2 uncles. They eagerly asked her where she found the golden ears. Ing Bao blinked, I found them in the woods over there, but there isn't any left. Maybe we can go look in the North Mountain Stone Tower Mountain. She still remembered the raggedy young boy saying that the firewood he carried had been chopped from Stone Tower Mountain in North Mountain. Good. Let's go to the North Mountain and find it. Jiang Dalong slapped his thigh, excited. There were many woods and mulberry trees on North Mountain, maybe they would indeed find what they were looking for there. The next day, Jiang Sanlang carried his granddaughter, leading his older and younger brothers, along with their 2 nephews, into the mountain. Just in case, they all carried bows, arrows, ropes, machetes, and backpacks. North Mountain was abundant with fruit trees, which were blooming beautifully in the early spring of the 3rd lunar month with peaches, pears, apricots all competing with each other in splendor. This reminded Ing Bao of the fruit seedlings in the cave. She had to think of a way to plant them on the South Mountain as soon as possible. They walked, stopped, and ran over several hills, and inspected countless trees. They didn't find the golden auricularia, but they unexpectedly discovered some whitewood ears, as big as a chicken egg. Ing Bao was thrilled. She didn't let her father and others touch them, only allowing them to cut down this dead mulberry tree and carry it home. Since it was dead wood, Jiang Sanlang didn't hesitate and, along with his brothers, cut down the thick tree. I don't know who owns this land, nobody seems to come and take care of it. Jiang Dalong murmured, looking around and urging his brothers to leave quickly. We should not let anyone see us. Let's go. He was worried that the owner of this place would find out that he and his brothers had secretly cut down their trees. If they were caught, it would be a disaster and could lead to a serious fight. Jiang Erlang stood on a high slope and looked around for a while, then said, Don't worry, this piece of land should be public property now. No one will come and bother us. According to the law of the Great Qian dynasty, after a landowner dies, his allocation of land must be returned to the imperial court until later it can be redistributed to other adult men. Therefore, either the owner of this land was dead, or the entire family had abandoned the place and migrated. Upon hearing this, Jiang Dalong cheered up and promptly ordered his sons. Hurry up and look around to see if there are any more white auriculas. This was the first time he had seen this kind of thing. He had heard that it was called a white auricula from his niece and brother, and that it was worth a lot of money. Dr. Li's pharmacy even sold it, so he hurriedly asked his sons to look around for more. Jiang Cheng and Jiang Quan agreed and set about looking separately. They found another mulberry tree with white auriculas nearby. The auriculas on this tree were small, just bigger than a fingernail. However, they were plentiful, with many clusters growing. So, Ing Bao asked her father and others to cut down the entire tree and take it away. By the evening, the Jiang family came back to the village carrying 2 sections of dead trees. Although the villagers were curious as to why they brought home an entire dead tree, no one asked about it. After all, everyone had needed firewood at some point, and carrying firewood back from North Mountain was an everyday occurrence. These 2 sections of the tree were taken to Jiang Sanlang's yard, where the 3 brothers cut off the ends and left only the middle, leaning them against the bamboo shed. That night, Ing Bao stealthily sprinkled the pond water from the cave onto the whitewood ears on these 2 dead trees, and also onto the golden auriculas, then went back to the room to rest. The next day, she saw that the whitewood ears had not only survived, but even grown a bit larger. Ing Bao was delighted. Saying it, she would soon have whitewood ear spores, and afterwards, she wanted to take some into the cave and cultivate them there. More than 20 days passed in a blink of an eye. The golden auriculas in Jiang Sanlang's bamboo shed were finally ready to be harvested. The whitewood ears on those 2 sections of mulberry trees had also grown. They were crystal clear and even prettier than the golden auriculas. However, the whitewood ears were somewhat scattered, not as well-shaped as the golden auriculas. He and his wife washed their hands and carefully harvested them with a newly purchased thin knife. Then they removed all of the golden auricula's roots, carefully placed them on a bamboo tray, some exposed to the sun, and others baked in a kiln. The whitewood ears were also harvested, scattered on the bamboo tray, and pushed into the oven along with some golden auriculas. The weather was exceptionally clear these few days, and in only 5 days, more than 100 golden auriculas had dried nicely. Jiang Sanlang picked up one and compared it with those he had baked himself, commenting, "The ones from the oven are drier, but the color isn't as good as the ones dried in the sun." His wife felt that the baked ones looked better, but this method was too troublesome and tiresome. Because somebody had to attend to the kiln all night, adding and reducing the firewood constantly to maintain the right temperature. These few days, her husband had lost quite a bit of weight because of it. Chapter 34, Chapter 34, Chapter 34, Entering the County City. Chapter 34, Chapter 34, Entering the County City. It was the beginning of summer in April, when the fragrance of pagoda tree flowers filled the air. Dr. Li was teaching his grandson how to recognize herbs at their pharmacy when Jiang Sanlang walked in, carrying a basket on his back. Jiang Sanlang bowed to Dr. Li. "Elderly, I've baked some more auricularia mushrooms, would you like to take a look and see if you can buy any?" Upon hearing this, Dr. Li's face brightened and he stroked his beard. "Let's have a look." Jiang Sanlang placed his basket on the counter and opened the hemp cloth covering it. The basket was full of vibrant golden mushrooms, each resembling a small yellow embroidered ball. They were a feast for the eyes. Surprised, Dr. Li looked up at Jiang Sanlang. "Where on earth did you find so many auricularia mushrooms?" Jiang Sanlang scratched his head, embarrassed. "They are not found, they were grown by us." "No wonder." Dr. Li exclaimed, "No wonder they're all uniform in size and pure in color." He picked up a mushroom and felt it. It was dry, and when squeezed it, the mushroom made a cracking sound as if it would shatter into pieces any minute. "You've put in quite some work, Sanlang." Dr. Li smiled. "The quality is good, if stored properly, it won't spoil for a year." After taking another glimpse at the mushrooms in the basket, he muttered, "We'll need to find something to seal them up." He turned to his grandson and instructed him to fetch 2 bamboo baskets to store the mushrooms. The mushrooms shouldn't be subjected to pressure to prevent them from breaking. His grandson dashed off towards the back hall. Dr. Li took out his scales and began weighing the mushrooms. 3 caddies in total. Dr. Li said, "Based on a rate of 10 coins per caddy, I owe you 30 coins. Sanlang, would you like the payment in copper or silver ingots?" Although Jiang Sanlang already knew how much money his mushrooms would fetch, he still felt dizzy when he heard the sum again. Good heavens, 30 coins, it equates to 30,000 copper coins. It would require a big basket to hold this amount. However, they still had a substantial amount of copper at home, more than enough for their expenses for half a year. It would be more convenient to take the silver ingots for easier storage. "Silver ingots, I'd prefer silver ingots, they're easy to carry," he replied with a grin. Dr. Li laughed too, ordering his grandson to place the mushrooms, while he went to the backyard to fetch the silver. This time he brought out 6 silver ingots, each weighing 5 taels, and displayed them shiningly before Jiang Sanlang. This was the first time Jiang Sanlang had seen so many silver ingots. He couldn't help but chuckle as he stashed each of them in his waist pouch. After slinging on his now empty basket, he asked, "Old Uncle Li, I have some more mushrooms at home, do you still need more?" On hearing the words, Dr. Li was taken aback. "What? You have more?" "Yeah, we planted quite a lot. The ones I brought today only account for 40%. Jiang Sanlang replied. It was now Dr. Li's turn to scratch his head. In embarrassment, he said, "To tell you the truth, Sanlang, I can only store as much. After all, the main consumption of these mushrooms is in the autumn and winter seasons. At present, I can only purchase this many. If you have any more, I don't have the available cash for payment. You can try selling it to the larger pharmacy in the county town." Jiang Sanlang paused, and then bowed to Dr. Li. "Understood. Thank you, old Uncle Li, for your advice." When he returned home, Jiang Sanlang was in low spirits. Although he had earned another 30 taels of silver, the majority of the mushrooms still remained unsold. Besides, his elder brothers were eagerly anticipating the opportunity to grow mushrooms with him in order to get rich. But now Dr. Li was not buying any more. If they couldn't sell the mushrooms, his brothers would be sorely disappointed. Noticing her husband's somber expression, Chun Yang quickly inquired, "What's wrong?" Jiang Sanlang relayed Dr. Li's words, sighing, "Dr. Li's pharmacy can't buy any more auricularia mushrooms. It appears I will have to make a trip to the county tomorrow instead." Upon hearing, his daughter Bao immediately lit up, and promptly raised her hand. "Dad, I want to go too. I want to go to the county town." Jiang Sanlang looked at his eager little daughter and couldn't help but laugh. "What for?" "To sell the auricularia mushrooms. Can you take me, Dad?" Bao sweetly pleaded, tugging at her father's sleeve. All right. I'll take you." Jiang Sanlang picked up his daughter, and said to his wife, "I am going to the front yard to discuss with my brothers. Let's see if they are available tomorrow. It's safer for us brothers to travel together." If they could successfully sell the mushrooms in the county town, a considerable sum of silver would be coming in. If they encountered bandits on their way home, it would not bode well, so it was necessary to travel with several adult men. Moreover, if they were planning to involve their brothers in growing mushrooms, they needed to find a merchant who could commit to steady purchases. Otherwise, all their collective efforts would be in vain. "That's a good idea, you should go." Chun Yang looked worriedly at her little daughter. "But, are you really taking Bao with you? The road is not safe." Before her father could answer, Bao preemptively responded, insisting, "I want to go. Dad has already agreed to take Bao." Chun Yang glared at her little daughter. "Naughty girl, don't you care about your baby brother?" "I want a brother. When Bao comes back from the county town, I will bring something tasty for my brother and for mother." Her baby brothers were 7 months old now. They could have some food to chew and grind their teeth. She planned to buy milk cakes from the best pastry shop in the county town for her baby brothers. Chun Yang. Jiang Sanlang laughed. "Just let her go. When the time comes, we'll also bring along Deshang to carry Bao." Bao's eyes squinted in a happy smile as she nodded her head repeatedly. "Mother, don't worry, Bao won't be wild. Bao will be helpful." Not knowing what else to say, Chun Yang poked her daughter's forehead. "You had better behave then. No running around. The county town is dangerous, with bad people who steal children, particularly babies like you." "Aha, Bao won't run around." The next day, Jiang Sanlang borrowed a cart from the village head's family. Carrying 2 baskets of auricularia mushrooms, he and his 3 brothers set off for the county town. Of course, Bao and her eldest cousin, brother Jiangcheng, were also aboard the cart. They started at dawn, and with intermittent stops along the way, they reached the city gates only by noon. The guards required them to pay a 5-coin transport tax before letting them in. Once they entered the city, they drove around aimlessly in their cart, mainly in search of a pharmacy that would buy their mushrooms. Having lived in the county town for several years in her previous life, Bao was very familiar with the layout of the town. She directed her father to drive the cart, turning right and left, and eventually entering a bustling street. The street was lined with various shops, colorful flags fluttered, and various people were coming and going in great numbers. Bao pointed at a shop. "Dad, that's a pharmacy over there." In her previous life, she and her brother had visited this pharmacy and purchased medicine. The doctor was skilled and the shopkeeper was trustworthy. But she didn't know if it was still the same now, just like her past life. Jiang Sanlang looked up and saw that it indeed was a pharmacy. Jiukong Pharmacy. The name alone suggested that it was an old, established pharmacy. "Elder brothers, let's go have a look." Jiang Sanlang invited his 2 older brothers. "We should take 1 basket of mushrooms first, leaving the rest in the cart. I'll leave Deshang to watch the cart." Jiang Dage and Jiang Erlang agreed. They jumped off the cart and tidied up their clothes, wiping off the dust from their shoes, before following their younger brother into the Jiukong pharmacy. Ing Bao was held by her father-in-law, her eyes rolling around incessantly. From the looks of it, Jiukong pharmacy seemed small, with fewer medicinal cabinets than she remembered. But the Jiukong pharmacy she remembered was from more than 10 years into the future. You couldn't compare the two. Upon entering the shop, Jiang Sanlang handed his daughter to Erlang while proceeding to approach a young pharmacy attendant who was preparing the herbs. "Excuse me, is your shopkeeper available?" Chapter 35, Chapter 35, Chapter 35, Jiukong Pharmacy. Chapter 35, Chapter 35, Jiukong Pharmacy. The attendant was polite as he saluted Jiang Sanlang. "What business does the guest have with our shopkeeper?" Jiang Sanlang was forthright. "I have some auricularia at home. I was wondering if your pharmacy would purchase them." The attendant was taken aback, inspected the group, and said, "That will need to depend on the quality. If the quality is decent, we will certainly purchase." Jiang Sanlang quickly brought over his basket and placed it on the counter. "Please take a look at this." The attendant picked up one and examined it thoroughly, sniffing it, and pinching it. Without giving a clear response, he said to Jiang Sanlang, "Please wait, I will fetch the shopkeeper." The attendant then instructed the nearby boy to take over and he himself turned and left for the inner hall. Shortly after, a 40-something bearded middle-aged man followed the attendant out, his demeanor haughty as he casually scanned Jiang Sanlang and his brothers. "You all are selling auricularia?" "Yes," Jiang Sanlang responded, saluting. The shopkeeper came over, picked up an auricularia, and said after a glance, "For auricularia of this quality, it's 1 tael of silver per jean at our store." "What?" Jiang Sanlang was taken aback, his complexion turning a bit unsightly. Dr. Li paid 10 taels of silver per jean, and yet this pharmacy was only offering 1. Jiang Dalong and Jiang Erlang exchanged glances but did not look too disappointed. They knew that 1 jean of rice was only 3 coins and mutton was just 18 coins per jean. To be able to sell 1 jean of small auricularia for 1 tael of silver, which was equivalent to 1,000 coins, was also quite a sum and was tantamount to several months of income for a farming household. But didn't the third brother say it was 10 taels per jean? Why such a big difference? Jiang Dalong wondered. Although irritated internally, Jiang Sanlang didn't flare up, he only reminded, "Shopkeeper, did you perhaps see wrongly? This indeed is auricularia, only days ago it sold at 10 taels of silver per jean." The shopkeeper appeared impatient. "We buy at this price, you can sell or not." Having said that, he turned and left, even giving the attendant a glare as he passed by. The attendant was visibly embarrassed as he said to Jiang Sanlang, "That is our shopkeeper. If you are unable to accept the price of 1 tael, please leave." Jiang Sanlang, with a grave expression, did not say a word as he packed up the auricularia and left. Ing Bao glanced at the attendant sadly. This attendant would later become the store manager of Jiukong Pharmacy in a decade or so. Alas, he was currently a mere attendant and had no decision-making power. The group exited the Jiukong Pharmacy and went to discuss by their donkey cart. "Jiang Sanlang, shall we try somewhere else?" "That can be done. There are many pharmacies on this street, we can try a few more to inquire about the price," said Jiang Erlang. Jiang Dalong, "Yes, yes. Inquire at multiple places to get a better understanding." So, the 3 brothers wandered around the prefecture city for a long time, visited several pharmacies but none were to their satisfaction. Although the price had increased from 1 tael to 2 taels per jean, Jiang Sanlang was still not satisfied. Given that Dr. Li had offered 10 taels per jean, why was it considerably less in the city? He wasn't willing to accept it. Jiang Sanlang was frustrated but there was nothing he could do. As they walked past a large shop with upturned eaves, Jiang Sanlang stopped in his tracks. Furifeng Trading Company. Wasn't this the address the customer who bought fish last year had given him? He had promised him to bring sturgeons whenever he caught them, but after a series of events, he didn't fish anymore. And now, he happened to pass by. Jiang Sanlang hesitated, contemplating whether to go in and check. After all, the sign indicated that it was a trading company. They must be doing business of some kind. Just as he was hesitating, a middle-aged man walked out of the gate. He was wearing a blue robe with a longevity pattern on it, and he was lifting his robe to descend the stairs. He looked up and exclaimed in surprise. He quickly walked over. "Aren't you the fishmonger? Have you caught a sturgeon?" Jiang Sanlang greeted him with a bow. "I haven't been fishing recently, and just happened to pass by here. I was hoping to have a look inside." The middle-aged man was slightly disappointed. "Oh, then go ahead," he said, preparing to leave. Jiang Sanlang hurriedly spoke again. "Actually, I brought some dried goods in hopes of selling them." "Sir, could you kindly take a look?" The middle-aged man halted his steps and asked, "What dried goods?" Jiang Sanlang exposed the golden ear mushrooms from the basket on his back. "These ones." The middle-aged man stroked the short beard on his chin, and a glint flashed in his eyes. He said, "Then, follow me." He led Jiang's family members to the backyard of the trading company. After entering a spacious room, the middle-aged man had them sit down and ordered the servant boy to bring tea. Only then did he say, "Would you mind showing me your goods?" Jiang Sanlang quickly gave his back basket to him. "These are golden ears made by our family. It took a lot of effort to make them." The middle-aged man inspected them, and then asked, "They have been well preserved. Do you have a price in mind?" "I won't conceal," answered Jiang Sanlang. "Before I arrived, I had sold a batch to the local pharmacy. The residing doctor offered me 10 taels of silver per caddy. I wonder what the prices are here." The middle-aged man pondered. 10 taels is indeed too high. "I estimate the doctor gave you the retail price." Seeing Jiang Sanlang's disappointed look, the man explained, "Our trading company needs to make a profit too. Moreover, we have to transport the goods long distance, guard against moisture and insects, account for losses from weighing errors, and take on large risks. So the highest price we can offer for golden ears is 3 taels per caddy, no more. Even if you sell them in Prefecture City, you won't get a higher price. Furthermore, if you sell these golden ears to a pharmacy, they will buy at most 10 caddies and no more. It's different with a trading company. We sell all over the country, so we naturally buy and sell much larger amounts than a pharmacy. We also buy for longer periods." He was sincere and reasonable, causing Jiang Sanlang to waver. With a sigh, Jiang Sanlang said, "All right, if it's 3 taels, then it's 3 taels. May I ask your name, sir? Do you manage this trading company?" The middle-aged man stroked his beard and laughed. "My name is Zhou Mao. I'm the second steward of Furifeng. I have the authority to purchase goods." "So, you're manager Zhou. My apologies for any previous lack of respect." Jiang Sanlang bowed in response. "My last name is Jiang, and my generational name is San. This is my eldest brother and second brother, along with my eldest daughter, Yingbao." Jiang Erlang and Jiang Dalong promptly bowed to Zhou Mao, and even Yingbao timidly called out, "Uncle Zhou." Zhou Mao stood up to return the greeting. "May I ask how many golden ears Jiang San and his brothers brought? Why don't we weigh everything at once?" He realized that the Jiang brothers had brought a donkey cart with them. Jiang Sanlang replied, "There's another basket. We weighed it at home. I will get it and we can weigh everything again." Zhou Mao waved his hand. "No need for you to rush. I'll ask the servant boy to bring the donkey cart in." He then told the servant boy to bring in the cart. In a short while, the donkey cart was brought in front of the room. Jiang Sanlang picked up the back basket, placing it next to the other one. Zhou Mao had already ordered the servant boy to bring the scales, and began measuring each. "Net weight is 6 caddies," the servant boy reported. Jiang Sanlang nodded, relieved. It seemed this trading company was very honest. There was no attempt to cheat him on the weight. The reported number was the same as what he had weighed at home. Zhou Mao said, 6 caddies. I owe you 18 taels of silver." Upon hearing the sum of money, Jiang Sanlang didn't express much joy, but breathed a sigh of relief. Although the price was much less than he had hoped for, he was still content. In previous years when he came to town to find work, carrying sacks of goods for others and working to exhaustion, he had earned at most 200 coin, if even that much. Now, he had just earned in one go what his parents hadn't managed to save in their lifetimes. How could he not be satisfied? Zhou Mao continued, "If you have more golden ears at home, feel free to bring them to me. If I'm not here, just report my name at the front hall. Someone will attend to you." Jiang Sanlang nodded. In a short while, the servant boy brought the silver. There were 3 ingots worth 5 taels each, plus 3 strings of copper coins. Jiang Sanlang put away the silver and copper coins, then bid goodbye to Zhou Mao with a bow. Chapter 36, Chapter 36, Chapter 36, A Big Flood Coming. Chapter 36, Chapter 36, A Big Flood Coming. At this moment, Ing Bao spoke. Uncle Zhou, do you buy Schwerer? We still have some at home. Zhou Mao looked at the baby girl doing business with him and couldn't help but laugh. Yes, of course I'm buying. Then how much do you pay per kilo? Ing Bao asked. Zhou Mao pondered for a moment. If the quality is good, a kilo of dry Schwerer is 500 coins. Ing Bao nodded her tiny head, then asked, Uncle Zhou, will you keep buying it? Or will you stop if you get too much? Zhou Mao seriously replied, there's a possibility. Our trading company has to sell what we buy. If supply is larger than demand, we naturally stop buying. Oh. Thanks, Uncle Zhou, I understand. As they left the Furifeng Trading Company, only Jiang Sanlang was feeling down while everyone else was ecstatic. Having confirmed the purchase price, they could return home and get started. How could they not be excited? Even if they only sold once, it would be enough for their family to live happily for many years. Jiang Sanlang, driving the donkey cart, stopped by several stores and bought a lot of daily necessities. He even bought some calligraphy and painting supplies and books for his daughter. He also bought several bolts of cloth. Now that they had earned some money, it was time to buy new clothes for his family, and live a better life. As they passed by a blacksmith shop, Jiang Sanlang bought several farming tools and a new iron pot. Buying metal tools required registration and tax payment. Jiang Sanlang presented his prepared family register for the process, and paid the metal tool tax. After leaving the city gate, the donkey cart became much faster. The 3 brothers chatted and laughed in the cart, discussing how they would plant Giner in the future. Despite taking several breaks, the one donkey pulling the cart full of people for 100 li was exhausted. Ing Bao took advantage of the donkey's break for grazing and drinking water to feed it Wudingzi, which refreshed it. Touching the donkey's head, Jiang Qing muttered, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it. Usually it's foaming at the mouth after a 20-li journey. It is strange today. The donkey gave him a snort, lifted its head high, and looked towards the direction where Ing Bao vanished. As for Ing Bao, she first went to see her little brother upon returning home. She gave her mother a packet of cakes. The shopkeeper said this one is the most easily digestible, it can be given to babies. Mom, you eat too. Her mom happily took it. My Bao Bao is the best. Your dad went to the county town and didn't buy anything for us 3. Ing Bao replied, Dad bought cloth for mom and little brother. It looks great. He will be carrying it back soon. Not only did Jiang Sanlang buy cloth for his own family, but he also bought it for his parents, his elder brother and sister-in-law, niece and nephew, and even his second brother's family. As nobody in Jiang Erlang's family could sew clothes, all the cloth were left at the bigger house, waiting for help. Soon enough, Jiang Sanlang entered the house holding 3 rolls of cloth. It wasn't until nightfall that the 5 people and the donkey arrived home. When they returned to their old house, as it was too late, Jiang Qing didn't return the cart. After unloading the donkey, he fed it a bunch of green grass. However, he noticed that the donkey was energetic, which was unusual for it after running 200 li all day. The fabric was smooth and bright, of a quality and color not available in the cloth shops in town. On top of the cloth, the 2 books for Ing Bao, a copybook, a stack of paper, 2 brushes and an inkstone, and a few bars of ink. Putting down the items, he took out 3 silver ingots from his waist bag and handed them to his wife. He picked his son he hadn't seen all day, kissed him, and smiled, I have told your grandparents that we will order a batch of bricks and tiles from the kiln in a few days. After the summer harvest, we will rebuild the house and build the courtyard wall, then we won't have to worry about people sneaking in. A few days ago, some rascal kid sneaked into the bamboo shed at night and stole a golden ear from a mulberry tree, even ruining a few others, which pissed off Jiang Sanlang. Afterwards, Jiang Sanlang simply slept in the bamboo shed to prevent others from coming over. Upon hearing her father mention building a house, Ing Bao, who was skimming through the books, immediately ran over and looked up earnestly, Dad, don't build a house. Jiang Sanlang was taken aback, Baoer, why don't you want a house? Isn't it nice for us to live in a big house? In the future, let's build a big courtyard, so you and your brother each will have a spacious room. No. Ingbao grabbed her father's sleeve and decisively said, in case there's a flood, it could knock the house down. Dad, we shouldn't build a house here, let's build it on South Mountain, it won't flood there. Jiang Sanlang was surprised. He was shocked that his daughter would come up with such an idea. Indeed, in previous summers, the water level of the Chuanha River would rise, sometimes spilling over into the fields. But how could such a small child know about these matters? How did Bao Bao know there would be a flood? Chunyang asked, her heart filled with unease. She had always believed the village rumors that her little girl possessed some spiritual sensitivity, so she paid special attention to what Ingbao said. Ingbao's eyes flickered and she said, I dreamed it. There will be a flood here that will submerge our village, knocking down all the houses, even the village head's house. The village head's houses were all built of green bricks and tiles, and common floods simply could not wash them away. At these words, Chunyang and Jiang Sanlang were left speechless. They exchanged a glance, their facial expressions somewhat solemn. Jiang Sanlang put down his son, crouched down to look at his daughter. Bao Bao, did you tell anyone else about these things? Ingbao shook her head. Jiang Sanlang said, then you can't tell others about it in the future, understand? Ingbao nodded her head. Tell your mother and me when the flood will come, Jiang Sanlang asked again. Ingbao bit her finger and thought, then said, I don't know. Jiang Sanlang. Chunyang stroked her daughter's head tenderly and asked quietly, Bao Bao, tell your mother why we should build a house on South Mountain. Ingbao's eyes lit up, speaking and gesturing, if we build a house on South Mountain, we can plant a lot of apple trees there. Xiaolu will have a place to graze. We can build our house very big, and even expand the yard. Daddy will have a place to plant Gina. Jiang Sanlang scratched his forehead, actually finding his daughter's words reasonable. Indeed, South Mountain had a wide expanse of land, some of their inherited fields were also there. If they built a house, they wouldn't worry about space. As for the taxes on the house and cultivated land, they could afford all sorts of taxes with the money they made from growing Gina. Furthermore, South Mountain's land was barren, and it didn't matter whether they cultivated or not. Many families had abandoned their lands there because they couldn't even make back the cost of the seeds. However, living on South Mountain also had disadvantages because it was far from the village. If their family truly moved there, it might not be safe. Chunyang, Jiang Sanlang asked his wife, if we go to South Mountain to build a house, can we really do it? Won't it be too remote? Chunyang frowned. She had no idea. Jiang Sanlang sighed and muttered, if only my older brothers would also build their homes there. With more residents, the safety issue would be resolved. South Mountain was undoubtedly the safest place to live, at least no need to worry about floods. Actually, South Mountain wasn't really a mountain, it was just a mound. There were many fields cultivated on it, as well as many wild bamboo forests. However, because the cultivated fields weren't properly maintained, they became more and more barren year by year, and many people abandoned and fled from their fields. There was also a natural water pond there. Although it wasn't big, it was enough for daily life of few households. If they expanded the pond somewhat, and collected rainwater over time, perhaps it could even solve the irrigation problem. Thinking about it this way, maybe building a house on South Mountain wasn't such a bad idea. At least, they could avoid the flooding that their daughter dreamed of. Maybe tomorrow, I'll discuss this with my parents and brothers. Moving and building a house were no small matter. Not only did he need to gain his parents' approval, but also the village heads. There was no more talk that night. The next morning, before Jiang Sanlang could head to the front courtyard, his older brothers, Jiang Dalong and Jiang Erlang, along with their father, came carrying mulberry wood pieces. Sanlang, can we separate the mycelium today? Jiang Dalong had already set up a bamboo shed in his courtyard, just waiting for Sanlang to finish his work and come to separate and cultivate the mycelia. Sure. This was precisely Jiang Sanlang's intention, so he quickly led his brothers into the bamboo shed to teach them hands-on how to separate and plant mycelia and how to water them. Jiang Dalong planted 100 roots, Jiang Erlang also planted 100. Old man Jiang only planted 20 roots, wanting to make a little extra money. In the midst of the bustle, the day passed. After 2 busy days, Jiang Sanlang had completely forgotten to mention his plan to move to South Mountain. Chapter 37, Chapter 37, Chapter 37, Preparing to Build a House. Chapter 37, Chapter 37, Preparing to Build a House. Now that he had finished planting his 300 golden-eared mushrooms, he was preparing to discuss it with his parents and brothers in the front yard, when he saw Chen Suanjing, standing at the entrance of his yard with his hands behind his back. Chen Sanyo, the village leader, was in his 40s. He was a gentle and polite man who was willing to help others. He held considerable prestige in Dongchen village, second only to his older brother, clan leader Chen Fu. Upon seeing Chen Suanjing approach, Jiang Sanlang quickly went up to greet him, and with a chuckling smile, said, "Uncle Chen, please come in and sit down." Only then did Chen Sanyo stride in, looking around as he questioned. "Sanlang, I see you've been busy recently. What are you busy with?" Jiang Sanlang rubbed his hands together and laughed. "I haven't been too busy. I just harvested some mushrooms from the mountain and planted them." "What kind of mushrooms?" Chen Sanyo asked curiously. Jiang Sanlang brought him into the bamboo shed, pointed at the 20 pieces of mulberry wood on a rack, and said, "I planted golden-eared mushrooms. They're said to be nourishing food." Chen Sanyo stretched his neck to take a look. He couldn't recognize it, so he murmured, "How strange." Jiang Sanlang chuckled naively. Upon exiting the bamboo shed, Chen Sanyo said in a solemn tone, "Sanlang, it's fine to plant mushrooms, but don't neglect your fields. Growing grains is the foundation for us farmers." Jiang Sanlang immediately nodded, "Uncle Chen, rest assured. Our fields are all planted. Not a single acre has been neglected." Chen Sanyo nodded and sighed. "Yesterday, Li Jing came to inform us that the imperial court will be collecting a large amount of food and cloth after the summer harvest. Every acre of our village's fields will be taxed an additional 10%. You better prepare. If you can't meet the requirements, neither of us will have an easy time." Jiang Sanlang frowned. "Another tax increase? Uncle Chen, is the imperial court going to war with someone again?" Chen Sanyo shook his head. "I'm not sure. There'll be official orders when the time comes. We can only wait." He walked a few steps, then stopped, and continued. "Also, you better start farming the fields by South Mountain. No matter what you plant, it's better than letting the land lie fallow. I expect food prices to rise in the next 6 months. If you tend to those fields a bit, it's better than going hungry in winter." "Uncle Chen is right," Jiang Sanlang replied. "I was planning to tend to the South Mountain fields. When the time comes, I'll definitely ask you for advice." Chen Sanva left. Satisfied. With his hands behind his back, Jiang Sanlang saw off the village leader, his face growing serious. Every year before the imperial court went to war, it would collect grain and fabric. If the war dragged on, it would draft soldiers. At that time, the common people would probably have to face hardships again. Fortunately, he had managed to earn a few dozen taels of silver. Even if there was a draft, his 3 brothers could use the silver to pay for substitutes. Therefore, he'd need to reconsider the house construction. There's an old saying that goes, "Peach blossoms in March, rain in April." It was now the end of April, and the sky was densely covered with dark clouds, looking like a storm was brewing. Chunyang sat by the window, occasionally glancing outside, anxious. These past few days, she had been pondering her daughter's words, worried that the Chuanha River would flood and inundate their house. "Sanlang, let's hurry to South Mountain and build a house. I haven't been able to sleep well these days." Jiang Sanlang, who was playing with their son at the time, was taken aback. He glanced outside and frowned. The rainfall in early summer was indeed heavy. It hadn't cleared up for several days. After thinking for a moment, he said, "How about we start by building 3 straw huts on South Mountain? If there's heavy rain, we can take refuge there." Chunyang immediately nodded. "Let's build straw huts then. Sanlang, I just can't take it anymore." She had spent all night on tenterhooks, not daring to close her eyes. "Then I'll talk to our parents and older brothers about it tomorrow to see if they want to build any," said Jiang Sanlang. Chunyang glared at her husband. "If you're going to build it, just build it. Why do you always bring up your parents and older brothers? if they don't want to go, are you not going to build it? How can that be? Jiang Sanlang scratched his head awkwardly. I was thinking that if there really is a flood one day, they can also find shelter in the houses on South Slope. Chunyang appeared slightly relieved and urged, what are you waiting for then? It's not too late right now. Go and talk to your older and second brothers. Oh, I'm going right away. Yingbao didn't realize that a casual comment she made would prompt her parents to decide to build a house on South Mountain. Not only did her father agree to build it, but also roped in her eldest and second uncles to help. In this moment, she was busily working in the cave house, planting schwer fungi on lengths of mulberry wood. After planting the schwer, she went to inspect the golden ear fungi growing on other pieces of mulberry wood. These golden ears had fully matured, but because the current weather wasn't ideal, they were not harvested yet. If they weren't harvested soon, the ripe golden ears would shrivel, discolor, and ultimately rot. Given that the golden ears planted by her father hadn't fully grown yet, naturally, there would be no baking in an oven. Additionally, with it being the rainy season and the weather humid and lacking sunshine, if the harvested golden ears weren't dried immediately, they would rot and mold. The timing needs to be calculated well for the next cultivation. Otherwise, it would be wasted effort. While making the rounds in the cave house, Yingbao spotted a large patch of bulboscinus, a plant that produces arrowheads. Now, the arrowheads had come to maturity. If not harvested soon, they would rot in the ground. Yingbao scratched her head and squatted down to start digging arrowheads. With a bit of pulling and digging from mere dozens of bulboscinus plants, she had already harvested a large basket of egg-sized arrowheads, which worried her. She couldn't possibly finish them all by herself, and she also dared not distribute them excessively to others. This was truly a life-ending predicament. If only she were grown up. Then she could sell them in the town, or perhaps pretend to have bought them from the market. But she was still just a 2-year-old toddler now, only a bit taller than a small dining table. If she were to go out alone, even a slightly older child could easily carry her off. She picked out a dozen or so of the largest arrowheads and set them aside to save as seeds. The rest, she temporarily left in the basket. After cleaning her hands in the pond water, Yingbao set about pondering over the 30 mature golden ears that she had. These things were super valuable, and it pained her to waste even one. Scanning her surroundings, Yingbao's eyes fell on the wudingji fungi on the stone wall, and suddenly, she had a eureka moment. She pulled off a few leaves of the wudingji, crushed them into a pulp in a bowl, and then mixed in some pond water. The juice of wudingji dissolved into the water, only making it slightly thicker, but otherwise, it seemed no different. Yingbao poured this bowl of liquid over the mature golden ears, thinking to wait a few days to see if they would mutate. Given that the golden ears were already mature and would rot and mold if not quickly harvested and dried, it might be worthwhile to use them for an experiment. If no abnormalities arose, she would cook these golden ears and have her grandparents and uncles eat them. That way, it wouldn't be a waste. If, however, they spoiled or became rotten, she'd simply throw them away. When she came out of the cave house, she saw dark clouds and raining outside the window. Yingbao knelt by the Kong table, picking up a stick of ink to begin grinding it. Ever since her father bought her the set of brush, ink, paper, and inkstone, she'd added an extra task to her daily routine, copying calligraphy practice sheets and writing the 3-character classic. The rain was getting heavier, splattering on the window panes and causing water splashes. Jiang Sanlang hurried back home from outside, his clothes completely drenched. Taking off his wet clothes and wiping his face with a towel handed over by his wife, he said cheerfully, "Eldest brother and second brother have agreed to go with us to build a house on South Mountain. Once the rain stops, I'll go ask brotherly Dayong to help us mold clay bricks so that we can start construction in the autumn. Building a house isn't easy, even if it's a grass-thatched one. It requires pre-drying the necessary clay bricks, preparing enough bamboo and thatch, as well as round wooden beams for the house. The door and window frames need to be ready as well. And only once everything is prepared can people be hired to lay the foundation and build the house. In the meantime, it is necessary to avoid busy farming seasons. It's not advisable to build during the harsh winters either, because the ground would be likely to contain ice. Once spring arrives and the ice melts, the house becomes unstable and the walls could collapse after not too long." Spring Maiden chuckled, handing over dry clothing for him to change into, and asked, "Are we still building a clay brick house?" Given their financial status now, they could completely afford to build a large, 5-chamber house with green brick and tile, which was both clean and bright. There wouldn't be any chance of bugs crawling down from rotten thatch in the summer either. Jiang Sanlang nodded. We'll start with 3 rooms of clay brick first. Once we earn more money, we'll build a brick and tile house. Chapter 38, Chapter 38, Chapter 38, 5 Poison Moon. Chapter 38, Chapter 38, 5 Poison Moon. The rain had been pouring for an entire day, turning into a torrential downpour by midnight, with lightning and thunder that frightened Chunyang to the point that she couldn't really sleep that night. It was only when the rain stopped the next day that she let out a sigh of relief. After a night of torrential rain, the river Chuanha had brimmed to the point that it was just about to overflow the riverbanks. Jiang Sanlang stood by the surging riverside for a long time, becoming almost certain of something lingering in his mind. It seemed likely that his daughter's dream could come true. A single night of torrential rain could fill the river to such an extent. What if it rained heavily for another night? He dared not think about how he and his family would deal with an oncoming flood. Chuanha used to overflow, even flooding the low-lying farmland and occasionally flooding villagers' homes, but it quickly receded each time, so the villagers didn't bother much. However, ever since his daughter had predicted a major flood, an alarm had suddenly rung in the hearts of Jiang Sanlang and his wife. Looking again at the Chuanha after the rain, it seemed more and more dangerous. No, it was better to move to Xiaonan Mountain as soon as possible. Looking back, Xiaonan Mountain was not far from the village, just a few miles away, and the smoke from the village could be seen from the mountainside. It seemed plausible for a few more households to move to South Mountain. Determined, Jiang Sanlang turned around to find the village chief, Uncle Chen. San. After the rain cleared, the sun was bright and the weather grew gradually hot. Today was the first day of Wudu month. Yingbao, wearing the 5-colored wristband embroidered by her mother, 5-colored silk threads tied to her ankles, wearing a 5-colored shirt, and 5 poison-embroidered shoes, went to a river gully with similarly dressed Danny, Aaron, and Huzi to catch shrimps and pick some reeds on the way, using their leaves to make dumplings when they got home. Xiaolu trudged along behind them, occasionally munching on fresh grass by the side of the road, his short tail wagging happily. Danny, with the reeds growing lushly and their leaves quite broad, asked her little sisters and cousin to stay on the bank while she went down to the riverside to pick leaves. She soon filled a bamboo basket and, stepping carefully, walked back up the bank. At that moment, a wild chicken suddenly fluttered by them, startling Huzi into yelling, "Chicken! Chicken! Catch it, big sister!" Danny glanced at it. "The wild chicken has flown far, we can't catch it." Putting down the basket by Aaron's feet, she turned around and went back to the riverside. "I'm going to see if there are any wild chicken eggs in the reed bushes." Normally, wild chickens and wild birds would nest in the grass or in the reeds, and the place where the wild chicken had just taken off might even have wild chicken eggs. Sure enough, a pleasantly surprised shout came from within the reeds. "Ah! There really are wild chicken eggs." Yingbao, Aaron, and Huzi craned their necks in an attempt to see where the wild chicken's nest was. After a while, Danny, wading through the water, came out laughing heartily, showing the wild chicken eggs in her clothes to her brother and sisters. "Look, there are 8. Huzi squeezed in to try and grab one but was swatted away by Aaron. "Don't touch, you'll break them." The 4-year-old immediately started calling out in annoyance, jumping up and down in an attempt to grab them. Suddenly, his little hand was grabbed by Yingbao. Huzi instantly froze, quiet as a mouse, then turned and grinned at Yingbao. "I wanted to give them to Yingbao to play with." "I won't play with them, we still have to catch shrimps." 2-year-old Yingbao consoled him as an older sister might. "Huzi, be good, we'll cook the wild chicken eggs for you when we get home." Huzi nodded furiously, gave a sniff, and instantly changed into a well-behaved baby. Danny led her siblings to a large puddle with aquatic plants and started to catch shrimp with their net. The shrimps at this time were fat and big, just 20 or so could be cooked into a whole dish. As Yingbao was too small to handle the net, she toted along a basket and leisurely ambled about. Seeing Danny, Aaron, and Huzi all concentrating on the puddle, she squatted down, and silently took a large clump of arrowhead plants from her pocket and arranged them along the banks, pretending to have just dug them up from the ditch. Then she shouted, "Sister Danny, come quick, I found huge arrowheads." Danny came over when she heard the sound, glanced at what was in her little cousin's hand, and was somewhat surprised. Is this really water chestnut? They were huge. She had never seen water chestnuts as big as eggs before. Ingbao, regardless of how shocked Danny was, picked up a water chestnut plant and swished it in the water, pointing at several water chestnuts hanging beneath. These should be edible. She picked one off, washed it, bit a chunk, murmuring, sweet, and so tasty. Huzi had forgotten about eating water chestnuts last year. He picked up a water chestnut plant, rinsed it, cheerfully tore off a big water chestnut, and crunched it with a satisfying sound. Seeing this, Danny crouched down and picked off the water chestnuts one by one. And put them in the basket. Danny didn't hesitate for long, she also came over to help. This time, Ingbao had a small basket full of water chestnuts that she had just plucked from the rootless grasses. The group of siblings gave up on catching shrimp, taking home a basket of water chestnuts and a basket full of reed leaves. These are water caltrops, aren't they? Jiang Lu and Zhou family's eldest daughter-in-law were very surprised the first time they saw such large water caltrops. Where did they come from? Ingbao found them, Danny and her sister said in unison. Where did she find them? Jiang Lu asked. Over by the irrigation ditch. Danny was still a bit confused. She asked Jiang Lu, Grandma, can we really eat? Jiang Lu picked up a water chestnut, rubbed it in her palm, took a bite and chewed it. It's not numbing, it's crisp and sweet, should be edible. She then passed one to her eldest daughter-in-law. You try it too. Zhou's eldest daughter-in-law took it, went to the kitchen to rinse it under the water, then took a bite. Tastes like water caltrops, but even sweeter. Jiang Lu chirped at her granddaughter with a grin. Are there more by the irrigation ditch? Danny looked perplexed, and then turned her gaze to her little cousin. Ingbao said in haste, there should be, let's go look again tomorrow. She hoped to gather all the water chestnuts from her secret cave. Maybe she could also plant some in their own and her uncle's fields, which could be a source of income. If they don't sell, they can eat them. It would be better than letting them rot in the cave. Jiang Lu patted Ingbao's head, smiling, then go look again tomorrow. If you find more, let Grandma know. I'll send your second brother to help dig. Okay. Ingbao nodded. She was certain she would find many more water chestnuts. When Ingbao got home, she showed her mother half a basket of large water chestnuts. These are the water chestnuts Danny, her sister, and I found. Such large water chestnuts. Chun Yang picked one up and looked at it. Quite rare. The two little infants on the Kong also crawled over to grab them. They were both teething, anything they grab, they would put in their mouths. Ingbao moved the basket away a bit. Wait until they're cooked before you eat. 7 or 8-month-old infants have delicate digestion, they can't eat raw food. Besides, these things grew underwater, who knows if there might be small bugs inside. Chun Yang took the water chestnuts to wash them clean, cooked them all, and drained them into a yellow basin. The two little ones drooled as they watched their sister peel the water chestnuts, making excited noises. Ingbao peeled the cooked water chestnut and gave it to her little brothers. Seeing their enjoyment, she also took one and crunched on it. The two little ones were relishing it, drooling all over their clothes. Chun Yang had to keep wiping their mouths and little hands, only to be flicked away by the infants, who protested with babbling sounds. Chapter 39, Chapter 39, Chapter 39, Lodging a Complaint. Chapter 39, Chapter 39, Lodging a Complaint. The next day, as expected, Ingbao found a lot of water chestnuts again. The water chestnuts were scattered all around the ditch, a few plants here, a few plants there, and even more further out. She would always manage to pull a few plants out of the water during the times when Danny and Ernie were not paying attention. This confused Danny and Ernie quite a bit. Ernie, being young with less experience, thought she did not have the sharp eyesight like her younger cousin, hence she couldn't find the bare stalks hiding in the ditch. Puzzled, 10-year-old Danny did not understand how her cousin could pluck out several bare stalks laden with water chestnuts from places in the ditch she had already searched and found nothing. Oh well, they gave up, figuring since they aren't finding anything, they might as well let their little cousin do the searching, and they would gather what she found. So, Danny and Ernie collected the bare stalks that Ingbao uprooted from behind her, gathering them into a large pile. After taking out about 3/10 of the water chestnuts from her stash, Ingbao decided it was time to stop. Just then, Jiang Quan arrived, followed by 2 boys. These two boys were the youngest sons of the Masons, Li Daiyong and Li Eryong. One of them was named Li Dao, aged 9, and the other was Li He, aged 8. Their father was currently helping the Jiang family make clay bricks at Xiaonan Mountain, and their older siblings were there too, helping to cut and dry grass which would be used with the clay. Being young, they couldn't provide much help, so they followed Jiang Quan to fish and catch shrimp to provide for the family. Oh wow, so many water chestnuts. Jiang Quan had tasted them yesterday and they were incredibly delicious. Seeing his sisters had found such a large pile, he was over the moon. They tasted much better than the wild cherries and sour apricots from the mountain, and tasted even better when cooked. Ergo, come here quickly and pick these, Danny called out. There are so many, we won't finish picking them. Okay. Jiang Quan walked over, put down his carrying basket and fishing net, and squatted down to pick the water chestnuts. The Li brothers, Li Dao and Li He, also came to help. Ing Bao washed a few and handed them to the Li brothers. Here, try some. Last year, she had tasted the food they shared with her, so now it was a great opportunity to repay their kindness. At first, Li Dao and Li He felt embarrassed to accept. However, seeing Jiang Quan also eating, they took some. While eating, Jiang Quan asked, Ing Bao, how did you find so many water chestnuts? I never noticed them before. He often went fishing and shrimp catching with his friends, and had never noticed that this kind of good stuff grew in the ditch. Ing Bao replied earnestly, you only think about fishing and catching shrimp, so of course you didn't notice. Jiang Quan scratched his nose and found himself agreeing with his little cousin's reasoning. Indeed, he had never paid much attention to the aquatic plants in the ditch. Gidge, we surely can't finish eating all these water chestnuts. It's market day tomorrow, why don't we take them to town to sell? Ing Bao was wondering how she could use this chance of selling water chestnuts to bring out some more. After all, she still had a lot of them stored in her secret spot, and they were taking up a lot of space. Jiang Quan's eyes lit up, and he nodded repeatedly. Great idea, I'll carry them to the market tomorrow. Being 12 years old now, he understood the importance of money. Not to mention the money needed for future expenses like starting a family. Even now, he didn't have any money to buy the things he craved for. The 100 coins he had were given by his uncle, and he was too reluctant to spend any, so he stashed them all in a hole in the wall. Ing Bao smirked and made a request, I want to go too. She wanted to go to the market to order a leather saddle for Xiaolu, so that she could ride it for longer distances in the future. Huh. Jiang Quan scratched his head, what are you going for? His little cousin was so young, and she walked slowly. It would be a hassle to bring her to the market. What's more, if he was there to sell things and something went wrong, it would be bad if he lost track of his little cousin. I just want to go. Ing Bao could see his reluctance, so she quickly said, I can walk myself. I don't need you to carry me. Jiang Quan twitched his lip corners, nodded reluctantly, all right then, but don't complain about being tired when the time comes. Ing Bao had always been exercising, so running more than 10 miles alone was no problem. Moreover, she ate a handful of the 5 Dingji mushroom every day, so now her strength was even greater than Yuan Bao's, and she could run just as fast as him. Early the next morning, Ing Bao got up early, first fed the deer, then scattered some wheat produced in her spirit cave for the chickens. After hurriedly washing up, she grabbed a freshly baked egg pancake made by her mother and ran towards the front yard. Upon reaching Uncle's house in the front yard, she searched everywhere for her second cousin, but could not find him. When she asked her aunt, she found out that her cousin had already gone to the market with a load of water chestnuts early in the morning. Ing Bao was stunned for a while, before suddenly throwing back her head and wailing at the top of her lungs, causing a huge commotion. Of course, she wasn't really crying. She hadn't faced any heartbreak over her long life, so no tears were shed. However, she was very angry at the boy for breaking his promise. He had said he would bring her to the market but then reneged on his promise. She was hell-bent on letting Aunt teach him a good lesson today, or she would not rest easy. As expected, Aunt was startled and hurriedly comforted her niece. Bao Bao, what's wrong? Ing Bao kept wailing, but she didn't stop accusing her second cousin. Second brother said he would take Bao Bao to the market, but he ran off alone. Woo woo woo, he does not keep his word, he lied to Bao Bao. Aunt helplessly patted and comforted her. Good girl Bao Bao, when your second brother returns, Aunt will surely give him a good beating. Now, don't cry, Aunt just made some water chestnut cake. Once it's steamed, I'll give you some to eat. Grandma Jiang Lu was also startled by Ing Bao's wails and asked repeatedly what was going on. Upon learning that her grandson had gone to the market without her granddaughter, she stomped her foot and scolded, "When he comes back, Grandma will scold him. That cheeky boy dares to bully his younger sister." Then she loudly called her eldest grandson, Dashang. Dashang. Jiang Qing was ventilating the bamboo shed when he heard Grandma calling him, so he responded, "What is it? You have no plans today, right? Then take your cousin to the market. Grandma will give you 20 coins. Buy some delicious food from the market." Jiang Lu was quite affluent now since her third son had given her a coin last time. She was willing to spend money to make her granddaughter happy. "Okay." Jiang Qing agreed, "I'll be right there." Observing the situation, Ing Bao stopped crying and rubbed her eyes. "What? A good girl." Jiang Lu sat down with Ing Bao beside a small table in the yard and wiped her face with a clean cloth. Jiang Qing came out of the bamboo shed, smiling. He asked, "Ing Bao, do you want to go to the market?" Ing Bao nodded vigorously, "I do. Big cousin will take you." Jiang Qing said, "It so happens that Danny also wants to go to the market. You guys go together." Ing Bao jumped up in joy, hugging Jiang Qing's calf. She looked up and complimented him, "Big brother is the best, better than second brother." Jiang Qing picked up Ing Bao, smiling, and helped her into a basket to carry her on his back. Danny ran out cheerfully, even leaving the stove untended. She went back to the room, changed her clothes, and followed her big brother. Aunt took some freshly steamed water chestnut cakes from the steamer, wrapped them in clean reed leaves, and put them in the basket where Ing Bao was sitting, cautioning, "Wait until it cools down before you eat it. Be careful not to burn yourself." Ing Bao nodded vigorously, "Mm. Thank you, Aunt." She behaved obediently. Bao Bao will bring delicious food from the market for Aunt and Grandma. She had a lot of copper coins in her pocket, and there was even a 5 liang silver ingot left in her spirit cave. Zhou patted Ing Bao's head and smiled, "Okay." Jiang Lu took out 20 coins from the house and handed them to her eldest grandson, reminding him, "Take good care of your sister." "I know. Grandma, don't worry." After taking the money, Jiang Qing with his little cousin on his back, and leading his sister Danny, set off for Chuana town. Danny very rarely had the chance to go to the market. Today, her big brother was breaking convention by taking her along, so she was ecstatic. The ordinarily taciturn girl was chirping away on the way to the market, asking Big Brother and Ing Bao all sorts of questions and was extremely happy. Ing Bao smiled brightly as she peeled off the cooled water chestnut cake and handed a piece to Danny, giving another one to big cousin Jiang Qing. Chapter 40, Chapter 40, Chapter 40, Liar. Chapter 40, Chapter 40, Liar. Jiang Qing has just turned 14 this year. His height has been sprouting up recently, almost catching up with his third uncle's height. Although he's growing taller, he's still a slender teenager. Carrying his little cousin on his back for 5 or 6 miles, he was sweating profusely. After all, Ing Bao now weighs 20 pounds. Very heavy indeed, almost as heavy as a piglet. Finally arriving at the market, he sat on a stone by the road to rest a bit, then got up and started walking again. Seeing this, Ing Bao took a boiled water chestnut from her pocket and handed it to her big cousin. Jiang Qing took it and finished it in 3 bites, feeling warmth spreading all over his body. In no time, his exhaustion was gone. Being simple-minded as a teenager, he thought he was just hungry and a water chestnut helped him recover. He didn't know that this water chestnut was an experimental piece that Ing Bao had soaked in 5 dingji overnight. Ing Bao in the back basket was standing on her toes, looking everywhere for her second cousin. The market was not crowded today, a lot less than during the holiday season. But there were still many stalls. Mostly they sell seasonal vegetables, chicken eggs, goose eggs, and chicks or goslings. There are also those who sell baskets, bamboo trays, chicken cages, and straw sandals, and offer fortune-telling services. Many small vendors set up their stalls with bamboo fences, displaying colorful threads. There were 5 poison-embroidered bags, AI tigers, AI men, as well as amulets for women, such as peachwood hairpins, owl talismans, and so on. AI tigers and AI men were made from dried mugwort woven into the shapes of tigers, humans, scorpions, centipedes, and toads. They were worn around the waist to ward off evil. Of course, these well-made AI charms were dyed and boiled into bright red with cinnabar. The more carefully made ones also had a few colorful silk tassels hanging from them, which looked quite beautiful. All talismans were hairpins made from the feathers of an owl dyed red. They symbolize using poison against poison and prevent evil and 5 poisons when inserted into one's hair bun. Because the Dragon Boat Festival would take place the day after tomorrow, the vendors are trying to take this opportunity to make a big profit, so they put out all their festival goods. Ying Bao immediately spotted her second cousin, Jiang Quan, squatting by the roadside, negotiating with several old women who were carrying baskets. "Old lady, these are water chestnuts I brought from the county town. A bag is 10 coins and I won't sell it for less. Your offer of 7 coins just won't do." The old lady glared at him. "You young men are too greedy. What thing could be worth 10 coins a bag? There are only 20 pieces in a bag. I see these are just water chestnuts from the paddy field. 7 coins is already too much." Jiang Quan was not happy. "Look at what you're saying. Could the water chestnuts in the paddy field grow this big? Old lady, could you be more reasonable, please? I only have 7 coins left, no more." The old lady started to act shamelessly, picked up a bag of water chestnuts, about to leave. Ying Bao had her big cousin put her down, trotted up to her second cousin, hands on her hip, and exclaimed, "You cheater. You just sold it to me for 20 coins a bag, now you're selling it for 10 coins, give me back the extra money." "Humph. I bought 5 bags just now, give me back 50 coins. Jiang Cheng and Danny were dumbfounded. Before they could say anything, Ying Bao turned her head and winked at them. Jiang Cheng immediately shut his mouth, took his sister, and turned to another stall, pretending to look at the goods. Jiang Quan was more astute and responded immediately, pleading pitifully, "Little sister, it's this old lady who kept bargaining. I always sell them for 20 coins per bag." As he was saying this, he turned to the bargaining old lady and said, "Old lady, why don't you just not buy it? I'm still selling it for 20 coins a bag." "What?" The old lady was displeased when she heard this. "You lad are really cunning. You said it would be 10 coins a bag, but then changed it to 20 coins. No. I insist on buying it for 10 coins. After saying that, she threw down 10 coins, picked up a bag of water chestnuts, and walked away. 2 onlookers saw this, each spent 10 coins to buy a bag of water chestnuts, and hurried away for fear that the young vendor would change his mind. Jiang Quan made 2 more transactions in the blink of an eye, unable to stop smiling. Just as he was about to talk to his little cousin, he saw her wrinkling her nose, glaring at him fiercely. "Liar. Leaving all by yourself without me." Jiang Quan touched his nose guiltily, whispering, "I was afraid I would lose you. Don't be angry, I'll buy you some candied fruit later." Ying Bao snorted, turned around, and went to find her big cousin. She wanted her big cousin to take her to the harness shop to make one for Yu so she wouldn't have to be carried by others wherever she went. "Humph, it's better to rely on yourself than others. In the future, she must be a self-sufficient person." And so, Tiangqing carried his little cousin, leading his big sister around the market. They saw a food stall selling all soup, served with steamed glutinous rice balls or water chestnut dumplings. The all soup was made with all meat. It was flavored with salt, spices, and dogwood powder, then thickened with wheat flour. It was thick, spicy, and very delicious. All soup is a common food people often eat during the toxic month of May. It signifies using poison to combat poison, resisting evil spirits. Smelling the aroma, Jiangqing couldn't help but swallow and asked his little cousin, "Ying Bao, are you hungry? Shall we have a bowl of all soup?" "Okay." Actually, Ying Bao didn't want to eat soup made of all meat, but since her big cousin and sister Danny wanted to, she compromised. So the 3 siblings sat down, ordered 3 bowls of all soup and 6 green dumplings from the vendor, spending a total of 18 coins. The vendor stirred the pot with a large spoon, filled up 3 bowls, and the strong aroma hit their nostrils. He then took out 6 green dumplings from the steamer, each wrapped in a mulberry leaf, and placed them in front of the 3. Ying Bao only ate 1 green dumpling and took a small sip of soup before declaring she was full. Jiangqing took his little cousin's bowl without hesitation, leaving no trace of the soup or even the meat at the bottom of the bowl. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the 3 continued to stroll around. When they spotted winter melon candy, Ying Bao bought several packs, kept one for herself, and asked her big cousin to take the rest back for Granny and Auntie. "Big brother, where can I find saddles? I want to get one for you," Ing Bao asked from her carry basket. Jiang Qing knew this. There is a saddle shop on the northern street. However, a saddle costs quite a lot of money. "I have money," Ing Bao confidently said from her basket. "I have a lot of money, enough to order the best saddle." Jiang Qing merely said, "Ah," without taking any notice. The three of them continued browsing until they reached the saddle shop. There were plenty of people around the entrance of the shop, and several mules and horses too. Two assistants were busy fixing the animals' hooves and attaching iron shoes. "Do you make leather saddles?" asked Jiang Qing. An assistant straightened up and answered, "Of course." "What kind of saddle do you want? For a donkey or a mule?" "For a deer," said Jiang Qing. The assistant thought he had misheard. "What?" "For a deer," Jiang Qing repeated. "I have a deer at home that needs a leather saddle." The assistant, annoyed by this, glared at Jiang Qing. "You must be joking. Never before has anyone asked for a saddle for a deer here." "Who's joking with you?" Jiang Qing was also somewhat irate. In a frosty tone he said, "Just say whether your shop can make it or not." The assistant sneered, ran into the shop to consult the shopkeeper. The people standing at the entrance laughed. One of them said, "Young man, you might as well bring the deer here. Let us see what kind of deer needs a saddle." Jiang Qing didn't pay them any mind, his gaze focused on the shop. Soon, the assistant came out and said in a loud, ringing voice, "The shopkeeper says bring the deer here so that we can measure its size." Jiang Qing turned to ask his little cousin, "Should we bring the deer here?" Ing Bao nodded, stood up in her carry basket, and asked the assistant, "How much does a saddle cost?" Seeing the inquirer was a 2- or 3-year-old toddler, the assistant twitched at the corner of his eyes, reluctantly answered, "A cowhide saddle is 8 coins. "Ing Bao, you're saying it's for a big mule saddle? My deer is even smaller than a donkey, is it still 8 coins? The assistant rubbed his nose. "Well, not that, the smallest saddle we have here is for donkeys, and it costs 2 coins. "Oh." Ing Bao nodded at the assistant. "I will bring the deer tomorrow." The assistant turned his face away, snickering quietly. He wouldn't believe for the life of him that a 2- or 3-year-old child could be in charge and bring a deer. Bah. Chapter 41, Chapter 41, Chapter 41, Deer Saddle. Chapter 41, Chapter 41, Deer Saddle. Jiang Qing brought his 2 younger sisters to his second brother and saw that almost all the water chestnuts in his basket were sold out. He asked, "You don't need me to stay and help, do you?" "No need." Jiang Quan waved his hand and proudly said, "I can handle it all by myself." This was the first time he'd done business all by himself, and it was going smoothly. He felt a sense of achievement and naturally didn't want his elder brother to get involved. Jiang Qing handed a sticky rice dumpling to his younger brother. "This is from Ing Bao for you." Without hesitation, Jiang Quan took it, peeled off the mulberry leaf, bit half of it off in one go, and cheerfully said to his younger cousin, "Next time, I'll buy a small whistle for you." Ing Bao. She didn't want a small whistle at all. Since returning from the fair, Ing Bao had been staring blankly under the apple tree. It had been almost 2 years since the apple trees were planted and both of them had grown to over 10 feet tall, but they only grew in height and didn't bear any flowers, which frustrated Ing Bao. What went wrong? Should she wait for her father to come back and ask someone with knowledge to check? Well, let's put it aside for now, and think about how to make more money for the move to South Mountain. At noon, Jiang Quan came back after selling all the water chestnuts, poured out the money bag on the table, and started counting the money with his elder brother. A total of 560 coins. Haha, we're rich. Jiang Quan was grinning from ear to ear. He started to divide the money. These water chestnuts were found by Ing Bao and Danny, so they should share half of the profit. Jiang Quan pushed half of the money aside. Li Dao and Li He also helped with wrapping the water chestnuts in reed leaves, so let's give them 10 coins each. Jiang Quan pulled out another 20 coins. Let's also give Grandpa and Grandma 50 coins. He pulled out another 50 coins. Give Mom 50 coins too, and the rest is all mine. Ha ha ha. Jiang Quan embraced the remaining 160 coins into his chest, grinning from ear to ear. When he raised his head, he saw his elder brother looking at him with a stern face. What about mine? Jiang Qing asked. Yours. Jiang Quan wrinkled his nose, but you didn't do anything. Jiang Cheng, I counted the money. Jiang Quan. He wanted to slam his head on the wall. Pouting, he reluctantly counted out 10 coins from his share and handed it over, grinding his teeth. Here you go. For counting the money. Humph. Jiang Quan quickly stuffed his money into his pocket, gathered up the money on the table into the bag, and then went to summon Danny to go to his uncle's houses with him and divide the money with the girls. Jiang Cheng, who was 14, didn't complain about the small amount of money and picked up the 10 coins one by one into his palm and locked them away in his cupboard. The following day, Ing Bao put a rope around Yu Yu's neck, stroked its head, and said, Yu Yu, I'm taking you to the town. You have to behave and not run around. Yu Yu stared at its young master with big watery eyes. Don't panic when you see strangers. I will be with you the whole time. Ing Bao patted its neck. Yu Yu lowered its head and nuzzled her, then tilted its head and rubbed against her. Ing Bao understood and fed it some wooding mushrooms. When Jiang Sanlang heard that his daughter was going to the town to get a deer saddle, he immediately put down everything he was doing to accompany her. You are just a little kid, and people will take advantage of you. Let Dad take Yu Yu there instead. Their deer was really majestic, half a man's height, and its antlers were starting to grow too. Probably by next year, they would be intimidating forks. A deer like this, if sold in the county, could fetch 20 to 30 taels of silver. Many people with bad intentions might take a risk for such a big amount of money. Therefore, he definitely can't let his little girl go, even if her elder and second cousins accompany her. Ing Bao shook her head. Yu Yu gets scared in crowded places. It behaves well when I'm around. Dad, I'll go with you. All right. Jiang Sanlang picked up his daughter, ready to place her in the carrying basket. Dad, I'll ride Yu Yu. When Ing Bao was training Yu Yu, she would occasionally ride it for a walk, so as long as Yu Yu didn't run, she could sit on it steadily. Jiang Sanlang put his daughter on the back of the deer, and reminded, be careful, don't fall off. I won't fall. Ing Bao sat steadily on the back of the deer, her father led it with a rope, and they headed towards the town. They passed the Shigong Bridge, Shichen village, and took the dirt road onto the official road. The official road runs through the middle of the town, one end leads to Qinchuan County, and the other end leads towards Yuzhou. The father and daughter arrived at a saddlery shop. The towering and majestic deer instantly stupefied two of the shop assistants. Even the shopkeeper ran out, marveling, I have lived for 50 years, and it's the first time I have seen such a large deer. No wonder you need a saddle. He then waved the shop assistant over to take measurements. Yu Yu became nervous when strangers approached and retreated behind Ing Bao, stomping its hooves uneasily. Ing Bao calmed it down, taking out a handful of wheat from her pocket to feed it. Only then did Yu Yu calm down, lowering its head to nibble the grains of wheat in its young mistress's hand. The shop assistant handed the recorded measurements to the shopkeeper, then stood by and curiously watched the interaction between the young girl and her deer. The shopkeeper patted the deer's back and said to Jiang Sanlang, although your deer is big, its spine is thin and cannot bear a heavy load. So, a cowhide saddle is not suitable. How about choosing sheepskin instead? Jiang Sanlang nodded, sounds good. The deer was not meant for adults to ride, it's just for the kids to ride occasionally. Please make sure the saddle is sturdy. No problem. The shopkeeper pondered for a while, then went inside the house to find materials. After waiting for a while, Jiang Sanlang asked, Shopkeeper, when can you have it ready? If it was going to take too long, he and his daughter wouldn't wait. The shopkeeper threw several pieces of leather on the ground and said, I'll cut it right now. It will be done very quickly, within a couple of hours at most. Jiang Sanlang looked at the sun, it was still early, so they could wait. He sat down on the stool brought over by the shop assistant, while Ing Bao looked around curiously. There were no other shops near the saddlery. Not far away, there was only a grassy shack where someone was selling pork. The pork was sold out by this time, and the butcher and his son were cleaning up and getting ready to go home. The butcher, Tuda, took down the iron hooks from the wooden rack and threw them into the basket, put a few knives in as well, and then picked up the basket. His 15-year-old son, Tu Xiong, didn't want to go home yet. He said, Dad, you go ahead, I have something to do, I'll be back later. Tu glared at his son and warned, "Don't mess around with your rowdy friends. If you cause trouble again, I'll beat you to death." "What trouble could I possibly cause?" Tu Xiong rubbed his nose. "I'm going to join Chen Santi to hunt birds in the mountain." "What could go wrong?" Tu snorted, picked up his load and walked away. Seeing that his father had gone far, Tu Xiong smirked and called to a pile of grass behind him, "Aren't you coming out yet?" Two young men, one tall and one short, both about 17 or 18 years old, came out from behind the grass pile, each with a slingshot made of tendons at their waist. "Are we still going to North Mountain?" Tu Xiong asked. The tall one, with chiseled features, grinned and said, "Why go to North Mountain? Look over there." He gestured with his mouth in the direction of the saddler's shop. Tu Xiong turned his head and looked, confused. "Look at what?" "The deer," said Mr. Chiseled Face, "that big deer standing over there, didn't you see it?" "I saw it earlier, so what?" "Guess what?" Chiseled Face leaned his arm on his short and squat companion, his eyes sparkling. Tu Xiong caught on, narrowed his eyes and wore a malicious smile. "Brother 30, aren't you scheming something again?" Chapter 42, Chapter 42, Chapter 42, Bad Idea. Chapter 42, Chapter 42, Bad Idea. "What do you mean by harping on a bad idea?" Chen 30 laughed and said, "That deer is originally a creature of the mountains and forests. Whoever gets it owns it, right, donkey?" The youth with the hemp face who was called Donkey responded with an apologetic smile, "Absolutely, absolutely. Brother 30 is right, whoever gets it owns it." Tu Xiong smacked his lips, slapped Chen 30 forcefully on the back with his plump hand, and putting an arm around the youth, he asked with a smile, "Well then, how do you plan to get it?" Come here, hear me out." Chen 30 gestured for them to come closer. The three drew their heads together, whispering and hatching a plan. All ended with a knowing smile. Ding, 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 ding. A salesman carrying his merchandise and ringing a small gong passed by the saddle shop. Ing Bao saw him carrying a load full of eye-catching trinkets, and immediately rushed over. "Hey there, salesman, hold on a moment." The salesman noticed a child running towards him, knowing it meant business, so he stopped immediately and set down his burden. Ing Bao ran over and was dazzled by the goods in his basket. Embroidered buttons, sewing threads, multicolored silks, rosewood bead necklaces, auspicious knots. Hanging from the basket were jade pendants, copper coin pendants, mini dolls, gourds, tiny colorful charms, and paper pinwheels. There were also ladies' hair decorations, earrings, ornamental hairpins made of both copper and wood, combs, bracelets, and neck chains. The most expensive items, large and small copper mirrors, were at the bottom of the basket. Jiang Sanlang, sitting at the entrance to the shop, was looking at his giggly little girl with a smile, knowing that she was going to spend money on a heap of trinkets again. Ing Bao chose over a dozen brightly colored silks to give to her mother. She also picked up 2 ceramic goose-shaped whistles for her little brother. She selected several embroidered towels which could be used for washing faces at home. She pointed at a little gourd with tassels hanging from it and asked, "Do you have the seeds for this?" "Yes." The salesman reached into the bottom of the basket, opened a cloth bag, and took out a small oil paper packet. "These are gourd seeds." Ing Bao was thrilled. She took a look at it, but did not recognize it. "Are these really gourd seeds?" "Of course. Not only do I have gourd seeds, but I also have fanbong seeds." The salesman dug out 2 more small paper packets and opened them for her to see. "Fanbong seeds? What are they?" Ing Bao was very interested in the unfamiliar seeds. She hastily grabbed one to examine it, but still couldn't recognize it. The young salesman scratched his head. In fact, he didn't recognize them either. These seeds were all picked out from among the undesired items of a fanbong merchant by his father and given to him to sell. Ing Bao did not fret about it and asked, "How much for these seeds?" "The vegetable seeds are 1 coin per pack, gourd seeds are 2 coins per pack, and fanbong seeds are 10 coins per pack," answered the salesman. "It seems not too expensive," thought Ing Bao. "Except for the vegetable seeds, I'll take the rest." They had plenty of vegetable seeds at home, there was no need to spend money buying more. "All right." The salesman was delighted, picked out the vegetable seeds, counted the rest carefully, and gave them all to the little girl. Finally, Ing Bao collected a pile of seeds and Bought a small copper mirror. Seeing nothing else that she wanted, she took out some copper coins from her pocket and paid the bill. The total was less than 200 coins, quite cheap. After a while, a few more children came running over, surrounding the salesman's basket to take a look. Ing Bao, cradling an armful of items, ran back and put them in her bamboo basket. Jiang Sanlang, all smiles, patted his little girl's head and said, "When we get home, Daddy will give you another string of coins." Her cute little spending habits could melt anyone's heart, he just couldn't be strict with her. Seeing that it was nearly noon, Jiang Sanlang patted his stomach and asked his little girl, "Are you hungry, Bao Bao?" Ing Bao blinked and took some boiled water chestnuts out of her pocket and handed them to her father. Jiang Sanlang chuckled, "How do you manage to fit so many things in your pocket?" He wasn't really asking, it was just a casual remark. Ing Bao chuckled as she shoved the water chestnut into her father's hand. "Dad, you should eat if you're hungry." "I'm not." Jiang Sanlang took it, bit into it, and found it was already cooked. He figured it must have been given to his daughter by his wife. "Are you really not hungry, Bao Bao?" he asked. I still have more here." Ing Bao took out another water chestnut. Jiang Sanlang couldn't help but laugh, savoring the water chestnuts his daughter gave him one by one. He wasn't sure if it was because the weather was getting warmer, but he felt a warming sensation coursing through his veins. He clenched his fists, suddenly feeling extraordinarily strong. Yu Yu leaned her head close by, nudging her little owner, hinting that it needed a water chestnut too. Seeing no other option, Ing Bao fed it the water chestnut and patted her head. "Take me home later." She was looking forward to the feeling of riding on the deer. Finally, the shopkeeper brought over the completed saddle. Come, try it on. If it doesn't fit, we'll make adjustments." Ing Bao held onto Yu Yu as the shopkeeper placed the saddle on it, tightening the straps. Yu Yu was somewhat resistant, repeatedly trying to jump and hit him. Okay. Ing Bao stroked its neck to calm it down. Yu Yu reluctantly rubbed against her little owner, finally settling down. The shopkeeper then fastened the reins, explaining to Jiang Sanlang how to control the deer and things to pay attention to. Ing Bao carefully listened, not missing a single word. Once the saddle and reins were secured, Jiang Sanlang lifted his daughter onto Yu Yu's back. Ing Bao sat upright, her feet firmly on the foot rope, grabbing reins from her father. She instantly felt as sturdy as an old dog. She urged Yu Yu to take a walk around, feeling absolutely thrilled. Jiang Sanlang paid for the saddle, smiling from ear to ear, following beside Yu Yu's on their walk back. Bao Bao, slow down. He was still worried his daughter might be thrown off. Ing Bao trusted Yu Yu. It wouldn't stumble for no reason, let alone deliberately throw her off. Along the way, Yu Yu caught the attention of passers-by. Some even approached them, asking where they bought the deer and how they trained it. Jiang Sanlang simply smiled and ignored them. Off the main road leading back to the village, there were a few patches of wild bamboo forest. The bamboo forest was well maintained, not lush but quite tall, perfect for cooling off in the summer. There seemed to be 3 figures squatting in the bamboo forest, up to something unknown. Jiang Sanlang instantly became alert, reaching into his bag to grab his axe, gripping it in his palm. Being a frequent hunter, he had a sharp intuition. Those 3 didn't seem to be just resting, but rather waiting for someone. In the bamboo forest, Tu Xiong and Chen 30, along with Chen Lulu, had been waiting for more than an hour, growing increasingly impatient. Before this, Chen 30 had specifically made 2 trips back to the town to confirm whether the deer were still there, only to return and continue waiting. Damn it. I've been waiting for so long. I'll teach that. What's his name? Chen 30 spoke fiercely, turning to ask Chen Lulu, what's the man's name? Chen Lulu, his name is Jiang Sanlang, from Dongchen village. The little girl he's with is adopted, not his biological daughter. I heard recently he's been quite lucky, they're even building a house on South Mountain. Really? Chen 30 was intrigued and asked, how did they become so wealthy? They apparently have some kind of golden ears. Chen Lulu spat in disgust and said, I stopped by their house and took a few, they tasted terrible. Golden ears. Chen 30, at the mention of gold, became even more curious. What golden ears? Made of gold. Not made of real gold. Chen Lulu fumbled, it seems to be a kind of yellow mushroom. It looks odd. Maybe it's poisonous. Poison. Chen 30 didn't believe it. If it's poisonous, why did you eat it? Chen Lulu, well, I was just curious, so I took a bite. My mom told me not to eat poisonous mushrooms, so I threw the rest away. Part 3 of the series ends here. Thank you for watching and listening. If you find it interesting, please give us a like, a comment and a subscription so that we have the motivation to make the next videos.